All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in chat can hear me, just push one. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push one. All right, I got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 444. Black Car Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, from those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you'd like to engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. All right, let me make one more adjustment and then we can get started. All right, we're gonna get started, man. All right, this one is from yahoo.com. Electric vehicle maker Rivian expect prices lower than previously announced. This should be interesting. Electric vehicle startup Rivian on Saturday displayed its pickup truck and SUV at an event in San Francisco's Bay Area and said that when their prices are unveiled soon, they will be lower than the previous than has previously been announced. Sorry. Rivian founder and chief executive RJ Scaringe told Reuters the mid-range R1T pickup truck with a glass sky panel that can change from blue to clear was about $69,000. It can travel 300 miles on a full charge. A similar range R1S SUV will sell for about $72,000. Rivian said the large battery could go 400 miles and the smallest could go 230 miles. Scaringe declined to say how many prospective buyers have so far spent $1,000 on refundable deposit to hold their spot for a Rivian. But he said the reaction had been really positive. So we are excited by that, but we now have the challenge of a lot of pre-orders. Pre-order customers aren't going to get the cars as fast as they like because there's such a long queue, he said. Rivian, founded in 2009, made waves when it unveiled its first prototype at the LA Auto Show in 2018. It has raised $3.6 billion and counts Amazon.com and FordMotorco.com as investors. Many customers at the event were excited about the designs, but Patrick Bonzi, who flew from New Jersey to see the vehicles, questioned whether Rivian would have a Tesla supercharger-like charging network. He owns a Tesla Model 3. What I found with supercharging is if the supercharger network is not made for my car, is not made by the car company, it doesn't charge the car as fast. Scaringe said Rivian was working on rolling out a network of charging stations at key locations such as national parks, but that the vehicles can charge on most charging networks available today. Brian Gase, Rivian chief engineer of special projects and employee number 4, was busy showing customers the batteries, saying 7,776 of them were powering the pickup truck, and one was powering a flashlight that slides into the floor, that slides into the door, giving the car a lucky 7,777 batteries. Interesting. The first R1T trucks will be delivered starting at the end of the year, followed shortly after by the R1S SUVs, Scarin said. So this is interesting. I don't follow Rivian that much. I know some people on this channel do seem to really like the company. I'm not a big fan of the design personally. I think it looks really cheap for the price. At least when you look at the Jaguar, I think it's the I-Pace. You know, it looks like a regular car. This looks like, you know, it wants to. It looks like it's made by Fisher Price, to be quite honest. I'm not a big fan of it, so I probably would never put my money behind it. I think Americans have a sort of a strange love for SUVs and pickups. You know, like they're gonna really go offline, but they never go off road, but they never really go off road. It's really strange. It's just this sort of consumption model that they have, or consumption culture that they have, that says I have to have a big vehicle, even if I'm not going to use it for its intended purposes. The Rivian is kind of like the electric version of a Ridgeline, in my opinion. Maybe it suits 99% of the people out there. What's going on, Tris?
What's going on, Mike?
Chill, man, chilling. You, I don't know how much you've heard so far about the Rivian, but
Yeah, I was listening. Yeah, the Rivian is interesting. It comes at an interesting time because obviously that transition from passenger cars to SUVs and trucks. So even though you look at the price point and it's above what most people would want to pay for a pickup truck conventionally, but now that the actual shift has gone, you know, from a consumer standpoint towards trucks and SUVs, they could actually market it at that price, provided it has the appropriate luxury accoutrements in the interior to justify that price. So, yeah, it's not really my style. I'm not really into SUVs, believe it or not. Even though I have a Toyota 4Runner, pretty much the only reason why I have a Toyota 4Runner is because I'm in Seattle, you know, inclement weather abound. So, any other circumstances, I would probably be in a car, some sort of motorcycle. But yeah, even though it's not my necessary cup of tea,
Mhm.
it depends on what the actual inside looks like. There's other things that are involved because, you know, people are not just throwing away money anymore.
Right.
So they're looking at, what's the prospectus of the brand? Am I going to be able to get servicing and things of that nature?
Mhm.
Um, what is the actual, perhaps even a resale value of that vehicle? What does the inside look like? How does it ride? Because like you said, most people are not going off road, so they're looking for something that has the look of an SUV, but they want the behavior of a car. You
Mhm.
know, but they want the capability of an SUV just for bragging rights purposes and ego, just to say so they won't look like a total poser. Like, well, yeah, this car this does have um, off-road capabilities, even though I don't take it off-road.
Yeah, it's
So,
only a matter of time before somebody puts some some fender flares on there and some knobby tires and call it a raptor or something, some kind of prehistoric animal, man. It's going to be interesting. I don't
oh
know.
yes, that will definitely come. I mean, you look at that price point. It's going to be at it's aimed at a buyer that actually has that disposable income
Mhm.
to actually do those aftermarket modifications. So that's definitely going to be some customizing available for those that actually buy it. Um, and again, you'll see all that stuff, but from the standpoint of actually, when you look at off-roading, a lot of times you're off-roading because you're accessing remote areas. So if you're accessing a remote area, you have to consider the actual range, like, and then being out um, in a remote area for an extended period of time, you have to come back to civilization. So it's not going to be for the hardcore off-roader, because it's just not very practical at this point, unless they have some way of charging it without actually having a charging station. You can't like bring, like, you go off-road, you could bring a spare gas, what you think, so that you can't really do that with an electric vehicle. And then depending on the weather, the actual range can be affected. So there's just other factors involved with it. But all in all, I mean, it still will be interesting to see what the actual long-term prospect is for this particular company, and whether or not it be absorbed or bought out by another company. Will it stand on its own, in perpetuity?
Yeah, because Ford has investments in this, and so I think the way the auto industry is moving is that everybody's going to share technology because they have to. In order to alleviate costs, they have to share the technology. This is why Toyota went to BMW with the Supra. They couldn't afford it. It just wasn't feasible. And so BMW had the right production and manufacturing process and everything else. And Toyota says, we can do the same thing. We can share some of the research and development with you, and we'll split the difference. And I think that most car companies going forward will have shared game plans. Because they're all using the same technology. They're all using this. They all have the same goal to put out a vehicle, electric vehicle. It just makes a lot more sense. But I just think that this vehicle in particular, this is like the size of a Ford Ranger. I just don't see how, or one of those Ford Explorer pickups, those all tracks, whatever the hell they called those things back in the day. Those things were awful, awful vehicles. They didn't have any bed back there. You couldn't even put a mountain bike back there. It was like a Subaru Baja from Ford or something like that. It was awful, but this is the same size as it. And for what they're asking, it had better come with a $7,500 or $10,000 tax incentive, to make it feasible. Because at 70 grand, it doesn't sound like a good deal. Um, yeah, it doesn't sound like a good deal at all. And the charging network, they're kind of iffy on it. They're like, well, it'll work with most networks, and you know, we don't know when we're going to get ours up. We're going to put it at national parks and stuff like that. Who the hell, if you own an electric vehicle, who wants to drive to a national park to actually charge their vehicle?
That's a good point. But initially there's, I would imagine there would be some clamor, you know, to get the initial offerings, because you want to be the first one with it, or maybe the first one in your particular area with it. So yeah, there'll probably be some interest, but the question will be, can they actually sustain that interest? And they'll have to actually do so with a quality product. Not only a quality product, but an appealing product. So quality alone is not enough, because people have to actually buy into Rivian as a brand. So it's just so many components to that, especially when you're talking about such a large sum of money. They really have to deliver. The question is, can they?
All right. Sounds like Super Trish has the seed back there.
Oh yeah, I'm in the store right now doing a little shop.
I thought you was taking your little young one out there. All right, this one is from The Drive. Iceland's off-road trucks and SUVs are wilder than anything you've ever seen. Yeah, man. Every time I see one of those, man, I'm like, I need to move to Iceland just to have this vehicle. I can't imagine what it costs to actually get something like this off the ground. That Toyota Land Cruiser, though, that shit is sick. That shit is sick, man. I need to stop looking at these things. That Land Cruiser just does it for me. All the other ones are dope too, but that Land Cruiser, that profile is just it. They hit the nail on the head. All right,
is that really a Land Cruiser that you're looking at, or is that the actual? Okay, because here in America, there's the Lexus GX series, which is based off of the actual 4Runner platform, although the actual the sheet metal is significantly different. Mm-hmm. So they sell it abroad as, like, I believe it's called the Toyota Prado, Land Cruiser Prado, because in other areas the Land Cruiser is its own line, almost like Ram is its own line. So you have different models of the actual Land Cruiser that are not what we perceive to be the Land Cruiser from the United States standpoint. So that looks like that may be like the Land Cruiser Prado platform. Mm-hmm. So you can actually build something like that here based on the GX, because those body panels actually will match up. So if you bought you could probably buy a used Lexus GX. And I believe you guys have some rather inclement weather in Boston during the wintertime. Am I correct?
We get hit maybe once, man. That's it. Climate change is tearing us apart, man.
Oh, okay.
The other day, you could, like 65, man. Cats is out there with flip flops. So,
well, I mean, you can at least look the part. Look like you're ready for the zombie apocalypse.
I mean, I can't imagine what it costs though, Triz, man. This is really expensive, man. That's not cheap.
Okay. Well, let's look at it, right? You get a used Land Cruiser for about maybe 35,000. I mean, not a Land Cruiser. I'm sorry, a used GX Lexus for about maybe 35 to 39,000 will be able to get you a rather decent one. Probably about maybe 40 to 60,000 miles on it, right? And then you can get like the actual body kit, a body kit like that. This was really just fender flares, some side skirts.
Suspension has been done over as well.
You said what?
Suspension must have been done over as well.
Well, the suspension is going to be a separate charge altogether. Oh. The suspension, and it's not really like a really significant raise. So you're probably looking at, from the suspension standpoint, because it's going to be a Lexus platform, you're probably going to look at it, maybe at least about $2,000 plus that body kit. And then having a body kit painted, you're probably looking at maybe about $6,000 installed for the body kit, plus $2,000 for the lift, and then the tires themselves probably going to be about $400. At least $400 a side, a corner.
What's that basket up top too?
Excuse me?
That basket up top.
It's about maybe $400 to $600 depending on.
Just two.
Yeah. So I mean, it's doable. I mean, you're looking at probably altogether for it, and you're talking about a used vehicle. That's probably going to be about $50-some thousand used, all in, 50,000 or so. So
yeah,
it's doable.
Yeah,
but is it worth it?
Hey, what's going on, Renaissance, man?
What's up? How are y'all?
Chilling, man, chilling.
Now I was gonna say you could move to Colorado too. That's real big out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I plan on shipping this to the continent, man. When I make my final transition, man. I have a neighbor who shipped her Range Rover down to Haiti recently.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she bought land down there, man. 2008 during the crash, she got that for dirt cheap, pennies on the dollar. Now that stuff is worth $100 grand.
But I mean, can she find a place to like service it there?
It's already been serviced here, so it's good. It'll be good for quite some time. They can service the vehicle itself.
Okay.
Yeah, they can service it itself. So it's not really all the work that needs to be done on it has already been done before it was shipped. So,
well, yeah, you have to realize that, you know, vehicles like Land Rovers and Toyotas, they have a bigger presence in areas like Haiti and Africa. So there's people there that can actually work on them.
No, I did not. I knew Land Cruiser did. I mean, not Land Cruiser, Land Rover, just because, you know, obviously it's a foreign company. And then, you know, they're a lot cheaper over there. Like a Defender, you can't even import them here. Or there's a law that says they have to be like 25 years old. So I was watching the video, you know, someone in like Britain will be like, pretty much look at this as like a farm truck. And, you know, if you try to import one over here, it's like 80, 100 grand for one with like 50, 60,000 miles on it. Crazy. So I know what you're saying about them having a presence in other countries.
Yeah. Let me read this article real quick. Unlike all too many Americans who build off-road trucks and SUVs to stroll through urban city centers, enthusiasts in Iceland put their four-wheelers to work. When you live above the Arctic Circle and face sub-zero temperatures for months at a time, it requires truly capable rigs to explore the desolate landscape that's packed with frozen lakes and feet of snow. In response to the British environment, locals opt for body cladding and monstrous tires that make their rigs look almost otherworldly, just like the ones we're highlighting here. Purpose-driven firm Arctic Trucks compiles complete packages with popular models from Land Rover and Toyota, including the Hilux pickup that Top Gear used to conquer the North Pole years ago. These trucks make Iceland perhaps the most hardcore of all when it comes to 4x4 adventures, and considering who they are up against, that's saying something. Yeah, this is Triz is right. This is the Prado. This is exactly what Triz is talking about. Toyota Land Cruiser 150 series E444. Yeah, this is it, man. I'll give up everything right now for this, man. What I have right now, I'll give it up for this.
Now, Mike, like I said, you don't have to give it up. You can get a Lexus GX, which is very, very similar to that. Now, with the Lexus GX, obviously, the actual front fascia is different. Now, because they share a chassis, you can actually take that front fascia that you can probably import, get off a Japanese auction from a wreck yard, maybe somebody rear-ended one of those and they got a pristine front end that can be imported because it can be actually swapped onto the vehicle, the same chassis. This is what they were doing years ago when not the current generation and not the previous generation. Actually, the previous generation before the current, 2 generations ago, of the Cadillac Escalade. This is what they were doing. They were taking the Cadillac Escalade front end and just putting it on a GMC Sierra or putting on a Chevrolet Silverado, because it's actually just a clip-on. Like, you really just literally just take off the other front end and it matches up perfectly. Mm-hmm. You have to do some actual modification for the light housing, but other than that, I mean, it's a clean swap. So, I mean, that's something to think about. I mean, if you really want that particular vehicle, I would start with a GX platform. And if the front end is not that important, you just keep the GX as it is to save a lot of money and not have to swap out the front end. Mm-hmm. Because it's going to be a while before that vehicle is available via import, because, it's that 25-year rule.
Yep. By that time, I don't think you'll be able to import anything. They'll probably try to get rid of all the gas vehicles they can off the road.
Facts. Like me, I want a Defender. Like that's the vehicle that I really want. Like
D90 or the D110?
D110.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Have you seen the new ones?
No, I mean, yeah, I've seen the new ones and I don't like them.
Oh, really?
I don't like the new Defenders.
I don't like that they don't have a. It looks like they don't have a soft top version, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
the new Defenders, it's like it looks too modern. That was the appeal of the Defender, was that it had a timeless design.
Yeah.
Much like the Jeep Wrangler.
Yep.
The Porsche 911. You know, you do subtle modifications.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You don't change the overall design languages, which is what they did with the actual new Defender. Totally different vehicle. Now, I mean, I'm sure it has its virtues. It's a modern vehicle. I mean, it's probably bounds more refined than the Defender it's replacing, but it lacks that actual appeal and the sustainability from an aesthetic standpoint that the previous generation Defender had. That previous generation Defender will still look good 100, 200 years from now.
Yeah. I was going to say on top of that, they kind of did this with the Jeep too. You know, adding more technology and taking away sort of from the ruggedness of the car and the ease to work on it by putting all these electronics in it. That was a big critique when Jeep did the redesign. I think it was a 2019, 2018, the new one. They put a bunch of basically technology, made it a lot more, you know, I guess more luxury appeal. And people were like, you know, the whole thing with the Jeep, it was easy to work on and it was, you know, really durable.
Yeah, it took away the analog portions of it because I think they have to keep up with the crash safety standards and things like that. So they can't just get away with the bare minimum anymore. So, all right, let me finish reading this. The Toyota Land Cruiser is known world round for its unmatched reliability and incredible performance on any terrain. Arctic trucks take the Martin 150 series. Land Cruiser bolsters its already potent arsenal of off-road aptitude and equips it with enough modifications to make it look at home in the latest Halo game. With Toyota being perhaps the Icelandic company's most requested brand, you can bet it's done this one up right. Yeah, for whatever reason, man, the Dusty in me, if I can say that, man, I just want to live in the van, but it has to look like this though, right? If I'm gonna live out of a van, it's gonna look like something like this. It ain't gonna look like none of that funny stuff you see some of these guys, some of these people on YouTube. The Dusty in me.
Good way to save money. My friend, I was serious. I was talking to one of my friends who works in California in construction, and he was talking about the living stipend. He said like his supervisor just lives out of a van and just literally $3,000 a month for living stipend. He just puts it in the bank. Lives out of his van.
Well, you know, one of the what some people are doing, or what they found, is that for those that were interested in van living, a cheap hack is to buy a decommissioned ambulance.
Yeah.
Because it already has the backup generators, it has the electrical outlets. Like I'm talking about the 110 volts that you find in the house. Mm-hmm. And so it's already outfitted to actually live out of, if that's like, you know, the route that you want it to go. That's something to think about too for people that's trying to do it on the budget. Now, if you're trying to style and profile like Mike V, you know, you have to come out of that pocket. No way around that.
Yeah, Jesus in the chat. Let me answer Jesus' question. He says, are y'all going to talk about Porsche's new electric vehicles? Yeah, we can talk about it if you want to. If you want to get on the panel and talk about it. He also asked, doesn't Tata Motors, the Indian company, own Land Rover? Yeah. The thing is, Tata is like half or majority owned by Chinese people. And so, although Tata would be originally an Indian company, Tata has many different factions within its organization. And so, because of that, you have Tata Heavy, Tata Fabrics, Tata Textiles, and Tata Automotive Group, and things like that. So Tata, you know, in name, you know, doesn't really mean much. It's not like Tata is going to be. It's not like they're going to change Range Rover into Tata Rover or something like that.
It's kind of it's like a conglomerate, kind of owns a bunch of stuff.
Tata is the equivalent of Fuji Heavy Industries.
Yep.
Like Fuji Heavy Industries owns Subaru, and I mean it owns so many other companies. But it's like more like you said, a conglomerate. Mm-hmm. Like these individual companies that are absorbed, they retain their own separate management and administrative entities. So it's just an actual acquisition because it generates revenue and they expand that portfolio like that.
Yeah, it's kind of just like have a big holding company almost.
Yep. Now we talk about Triz mentioned Fuji Heavy, but I don't know if they make an Aldo Heavy.
You had a lie. Where Jesus at? Jesus.
He's in the chat. Jesus in the chat.
Oh, yeah, he's in the chat.
Aldo Heavy.
Hey, Mike, I was going to ask you something a little off subject. You were saying you had a neighbor that moved to Haiti. So, like, what's her long-term plan?
She's from Haiti, but
okay.
She bought land down there back during the 2008 crash, and her and her husband, man, bought that stuff for pennies on the dollar, and they started building up a house down there. I think they got like a tiny house or a tiny cottage or something like that down there.
Okay, now I was just curious. I thought she was just like someone who just randomly bought the land while it was cheap and decided to randomly move. So I know she was from there.
She plans on it though. She plans in the next 10 years to get the hell up out of here. And the thing is, she came back. She says, Mike, everybody else is down there except for African Americans. You got the Taiwanese, you got the Chinese, you got.
People rebuilding. I believe that.
Yeah.
So Mike, my question is, okay, so she bought that land, and now that it's worth. I mean, how much land did she buy altogether? Do you have any idea?
Oh, it's in the double figures of acreage.
Oh, okay. So it's like a big plot. Okay.
Yeah, I bought a big plot down there, and so I think they put a tiny house or something like that down there. So plus they have the Range Rover parked in there. So so they're planning this out for the long term, not the short term. It's just for the long term. So I think they're Airbnb it now. So there's somebody out there managing it, but I think that's what they're doing with it for right now, is Airbnb it. But it's turning profit for them.
No, that's cool. And I was going to say that I guess did she have an advantage? Because I'm assuming she has dual citizenship then. But you said everyone's down there, because I know some countries are funny about letting foreigners invest, buy land, stuff like that.
Well, she was born there.
She got citizenship.
Her and her husband are born there. So they're just up here because they work for the state government, city government, so the teachers and whatnot. But she said the Brazilians are down there, Ecuadorians are down there. Everybody else is down there except for African Americans. Why is that, Mike? I can't tell you. I don't know.
People's perception.
Yeah.
They see what you see on TV and think, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, she said they should have came down here and locked it down years ago.
You could say the same thing about African countries as well too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to really kind of look into that because, some people don't know about the different laws regarding purchasing land because, that's something that you have to look into. Like I know, for instance, like Philippines, right? And if you're not a Philippine citizen, you just can't go down there and just buy land. No, you have to have somebody. You have to be married or something like that. And then when you're married, I think 60% of the land, the value, or you can only own 60% of it. Yeah. So there's different regulations regarding that.
Yeah, the continent's a little bit different too now because now you can't just outright buy land, right? You can lease it for 99 years, but that's the extent of it. And it can't be handed down from generation to generation, right? After the lease is up, it has to go back to the government.
And that's like a really big, I guess, a big caveat to that. Now, I mean, depending on what you plan on using the land for, like if you want to, if you can actually if you can develop a business plan where you can actually recuperate your losses and actually turn a profit, then that would be worthwhile. But if you're planning on some type of legacy based on that land acquisition, then that's probably not going to be the move for you.
Well, the reason why they're doing that is to prevent colonialism, right? It's to prevent Europeans from occupying the land further than what they did before. And so if you're going to use it for agricultural purposes, then that falls under a different stipulation. But if you're trying to live on the land, then 99-year lease is what they're going to offer you. And so that makes a lot of sense. It goes back to the whatever tribe I think manages it or should manage it, like a land trust or something like that. But then you can actually extend it out. But how many people live there for more than 99 years, right? So I don't see too much of a problem with that because things change, right? If you go back to the 1900s, man, there was no such thing as cities back then. Cities are still a relatively new thing in Western society. It's still a relatively new thing.
Well, I mean, from the perspective of again, some of the Filipinos I work with, they have like entire compounds back in the Philippines where their family have lived on these compounds for generations, and as they acquire more wealth, they build more domiciles on the land that they already own, and so it kind of stays in the family. It's passed down from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like a 100-year lease, if that's part of your plan, then that I don't know how. I mean, it may work, but I'm not sure if it will, because at some point in time, land, Africa may become like, the United States, where land becomes increasingly more expensive to own, actually maybe even cost prohibitive for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that ability to actually own that land, and then at some point you may be able to convert that property into a revenue generating stream by putting either some type of business or just even renting out the properties that you have built there.
I think you're going to see a lot of things with this with smartphones and technology and blockchain and stuff like that, where you have fractionalized ownership, tokenization of land and things like that. I think we're starting to see the emergence of a lot of that now with African governments and whatnot, even in Latin America. So things are going to change in the next 10 years. You'll probably see a difference in perspective. They'll probably start changing some of the laws and whatnot and how people go about buying land, because if you're going to prop up a village of tiny houses and stuff like that, you're going to have to actually make these adjustments so that you can have these sort of living spaces and living quarters available through land ownership and fractionalized ownership and tokenization. So we'll see how that works out. But this Santa Fe right here, man, this Hyundai Santa Fe is that's the business, man. That looks pretty dope. Can't say I have any.
Yeah, that actually looks pretty. I mean, I think that it, obviously the fender flares were, they're aftermarket. I think Hyundai, if they were really motivated, they can actually build a factory version of this that looks more integrated. That you can have that actual wide appearance, and have it a little bit more massaged as far as some of the more sharp edges, make them more contoured and better integrated into the actual pre-existing sheet metal. And that, from the factory, the cost can be minimized, and it can actually look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder what makes someone want to do that with the Santa Fe. Like the last one, Lexus, that makes sense. Toyota frame, all of that. You just got, I guess, really got to be a fan of a Santa Fe to go and trick it out like this.
Well, Santa Fe's are pretty cheap on the market. According to this, it looks like Patrick Burgo was the one who ordered it, to do the trip across Antarctica. So I guess that proves that it's doable. So I can't knock any of these. Even the Ford too. The Ford is that shit is pretty badass. But a lot of these vehicles are really heavy, man. I don't know if I want to go across a frozen lake with one of these things. It doesn't look like something that's particularly of my interest. I'll stay on the dry land. I'm good with that, man. But yeah, man, a van. Yeah, that's pretty lit right there, man. Yeah, Trish talked about the ambulance, but you think you can't take an ambulance off road? At least not the ones that we've been seeing on these sort of pimp my van or whatever it is that they do for van.
Oh, you'd
You
be
could, yeah.
surprised. You'd be surprised because a lot of the ambulances are built on what you would consider what's the name chassis cab. They're chassis cab. So basically, you have a van, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a chassis cab frame that's actually built to a higher spec. So it's like a van that's chopped, and so then it's shipped to a separate company that actually puts the ambulance box on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually buy a chassis cab frame from Ford Commercial. So it's not, you don't go to a regular Ford dealership. There's like a Ford Commercial dealership, and they also have like different companies that have commercial dealerships. Like I believe Dodge has a commercial dealership, and these are dealerships, and they basically sell commercial vehicles, and they have a chassis, it's called a chassis cab. So a chassis cab trucks that's just like the pickup truck without the bed, or the van that just has like the front part of the van, and it's just like an open frame that looks almost like an actual big rig kind of, but on a smaller scale, where it's just like the basic the frame and the wheels from the cab back. Yeah, so you get a chassis cab like that, and that's how they make these. That's how they make these off-road vehicles, and that's how they make the ambulance. Same concept. So that's what Sportsmobile does. Sportsmobile is a company. I believe that Mercedes that you were showing is probably a Sportsmobile model. Sportsmobile actually buys chassis cabs directly from the Ford dealership, and they put like a Haldex all-wheel drive, I believe, or Haldex four-wheel drive, some type of all four-wheel drive system onto it. Or if you buy like some of the pickup truck chassis cabs, they're already four-wheel drive. And then like the Mercedes, I believe it's already four-wheel drive. And then they actually just put the actual the van parts on it to make it look like an integrated van, but in actuality, it was bought as a chassis cab. So it's real interesting because I watched the actual documentary that showed how they make them. Went straight to the factory, and these vehicles are actually very, very expensive. Like the used ones are $75,000 for a used one. I actually looked into, but I was like, man, I saw one of those. I'm like, man, I want to give me one of those myself. I looked at the price and saw that the used one was $75,000. I said, yeah.
You're talking about for an ambulance, right?
No. I'm talking about an actual sports wagon that looks like an actual. Yeah. I'm talking about the one like what you just showed right now. That Mercedes.
Yeah.
That's sports wagon makes Mercedes, Dodge Sprinters, and Ford Econoline. Like what you just saw, they make the off-road versions that have the kitchenette inside there, they have the bed, the pop-up tops, all that stuff. Sports wagon, that's like the actual company that makes them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got Paul Bryan on the panel. What's going on, Paul?
How are you, sir? How's everything?
I know it's late where you are. What's going on?
No, bro. It is, bro. It is 20 to 1 in the afternoon. I'm in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh. Down under. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's my second trip. Loving it down here. The entire country is one giant theme park. I go ATV riding, cycling. We went to the drag strip on Saturday. It's awesome, bro. It's like it's amazing. It's like Germany only they speak English. It's awesome. Love it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend who went there. He said people they have a lot different outlook on life than Americans. Just like pretty much have fun and enjoy life.
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, the only difference between Germany and Australia, from my perspective, is again people speak English, and of course, they're not the button down business as usual culture that Germans have, but it's awesome, man. It's absolutely awesome, man. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Second home, huh?
What's that?
Third home, huh?
It's you know what, Mike? This could be a third home, bro. It really is, man.
You got to learn the language.
Well, you know what? You got jokes, bro. It's funny because in Germany, I have to speak German all day, every day. barely get a chance to speak English. So then you come here, it's English, but it's not really English. So it's funny, but it's awesome. My second trip. But where is my man Ty City? Because I sent you that article about GM and their full electrification. I've been trying to educate this brother that the entire industry is moving towards full electrification, and he just doesn't want to believe it.
Well, he won't accept that he's a purist, right? So he still believes in moving that third pedal and shifting those gears in that clutch, man. So he can't fathom that a vehicle that only has one pedal is
Well,
the future.
Well, I mean, hey man, look, listen, I'm old school. I'm old school myself. My father, man, he rest in peace, taught me how to drive a stick. Most of my vehicles have been a manual transmission, but um, I'm pretty sure I sent you through the email chain.
Saw that.
Several not even the article that I sent you. I don't even know. Yesterday, today, I don't know. Being sick, being 16 hours ahead throws everything off for me. But the bottom line is, industry insiders, industry insiders, were saying from early 2019, the products are not on the market yet, but the entire automotive industry has already moved towards full electrification of all customer passenger vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Things are just in R&D, but you're going to see over the next few years everything will be full electric. They've already moved past the internal combustion engine. As far as the entire industry is concerned, it's dead. It's gone.
Yeah, there's no reason to put more money into it. So,
So
yeah.
what do you all think will happen with as far as transitioning to electric? Because I mean, I'm sure there are going to be people who want to hold out, even if you just want to be a collector of internal combustion engine cars.
Oh, the price of exotics, man, have gone up significantly. I mean, we discussed this maybe about a week or so ago, about 10 days ago. A Porsche 993. That sucker is going to go up to $800 to $1 million on an auction block very soon.
Yeah.
Or it's already on the auction block. So, and it's one of the last ones made, the last air-cooled Porsches made. So they're going to go up exponentially in the next 2 to 5 years, because all this electrification that Paul is talking about, it's coming rapidly. It's not coming down in trickles, in little drips and whatnot. Everybody's going to go electric at some point. And from the transportation forum that I attended last year, they were talking about here in New York that they plan on getting rid of all gas-based vehicles off the road by 2045. There will be no more of those.
Oh, wow. And I was going to say the infrastructure is going to go with it. So mechanic shops, gas stations.
Oh, you see Monroe and Struts, Speedy, a lot of them have been closing down in 2019. A lot of people aren't coming back because they either got in a hybrid or they moved to a full electric vehicle. They're just not coming back with their vehicles to get oil changes anymore. That slowed down. Now, a lot of that is because of the emerging tech, but the other half is like BMW, Audi. Their oil changes are 10 to 15,000 miles.
Yep.
It's not the 3,000 miles that they were scamming people off before. So that's the nature of the technology in some of these vehicles. They don't really need an oil change all that often.
Right, and you see, you make mention about the infrastructure. So here's the thing, right? Presently, China of all countries actually was leading the charge, but the Germans have spent 2019 putting their considerable engineering might toward the problem. Scandinavia, for one, and a lot of Northern Europe, at a state level, they're pushing for full electrification of all passenger vehicles. So you're talking infrastructure being installed for charging stations and quote unquote superchargers, or whatever name you so choose to market it as. So the infrastructure is here. It's a matter of actually rolling it out. How much state level support, which of course means legal mandate to actually push the timetable forward. So Europe is currently leading that charge, and that's on something that I see on a daily basis. America, as always, will be slower. However, the technology is there, and you will see more and more infrastructure roll out because, again, the industry, the Germans currently are leading the charge. The Chinese were already there, but of course, the German technical and engineering prowess. The Japanese are also in the R&D phase. The Americans late to the table as always. However, don't let that confuse you. They're pushing towards full electrification of all of their vehicles. So the infrastructure, again, they're saying 2045 for all internal combustion engines to be off the road. That's not that far away.
No.
Okay, so now that's talking for that assumes that the infrastructure by that point will already have been in place for several years for full electrification anyway.
No, because the reason I ask, I remember watching a documentary probably like 8 years ago on like liquid natural gas, and they thought that was going to be the next big thing with cars, like liquid natural gas and trucks and things like that. And now people are going electric.
LNG, CNG.
Yeah, but handling, yes, CNG, hydrogen. BMW had that H7 or H1, however, whatever the name was. There are handling issues with those more exotic fuels, and the battery technology has made leaps and bounds. Okay, so things are changing. With the electric vehicles, it's a different ball game versus the more exotic fuels. So this is not, it's no longer pie in the sky. People laughed when GM came out with their Volt and Toyota with the Prius. The technology is light years ahead of where it was.
Yeah. I think that at some point, I know this was discussed last year at one of the conferences, one of the summits, and they were talking about places like New York City are going to have overhead license plate readers where basically, if you want to drive into Manhattan, then you're going to have to pay a heavy tax for it. You want to park your cars, then cost you a heavy tax.
Bro, that's been in place for over a year now, almost 2 years.
Overhead license plate reader that basically, charges you up the wazoo just to park there.
Okay, not as far as parking.
Yeah.
The East River crossings, the 11 bridges and tunnels, they pulled out all of the all of the toll booths. Okay, so you need an easy pass to get through any of the bridges and tunnels. If you don't have it, a license plate reader reads your plate and charges you the full price. There are no more toll booths at any of the bridges and tunnels. Yeah. So that's been in place. Memory serves correct. Sometime in 2018.
Yeah, they did the same thing here, and they took out all the parking meters as well. So you pay by phone now.
Oh, wow.
They did that here in Seattle. Like you pay to park by phone, and you don't even have to put no sticker in your window or anything. You just pay. You pay by phone.
Yeah, you mark it because the streets are marked, and so it knows where your vehicle is parked because they also know by phone and by GPS. And when the clock starts ticking down to like 30 seconds left, they're already out there waiting for you. And if you don't come get your car, they're gonna make a nice 30 or 40 bucks off you.
Well, here they don't even they don't even mark the streets. So like you just park anywhere on the street, and like if it's in a zone where it's pay by phone to park, or pay by, or it actually is by app. I say by phone, but it's actually by app. So you just pay by the app, and like you just put your license plate number in there, and then the cops come by, and they own it too. It's like a big money maker.
Well, it's because it's guaranteed. before people would just pull up to a parking meter, and if there was nobody around to see if the parking meter to come check the parking meter, then city was losing out a lot of money on it. But now with the app and the number designation, they know exactly where you are and how much time you have left, because the dashboard that they have is saying that the clock is ticking on this vehicle in this certain space, and they're out there waiting. And if you don't come get your car at that 1 second, there's no grace period for you. So they'll ding you with a ticket. And so I found out the hard way back in November when I was at MIT. So I'm lucky they didn't tow my vehicle, because I did stay an extra 30 minutes beyond my allotted limit. So anyways, to Paul's point about electrification in the emails that he has been sending out, that was one of the discussions that we had last year at this African meetup, African business meetup, and basically about cultural intelligence and whatnot. African governments are having a hard time building out infrastructure, and that was the whole point of the discussion. Infrastructure, the investment is in the infrastructure. They need the continent is very proprietary in its cultivation and development, and so what may work here in the United States is not exactly a one-for-one fit there. So they are looking for people who can come in and look at the environment and say, hey, this is a better way how we can actually manage transportation and electrification of vehicles, and where you're going to put all these charging stations. How should it work? How would you actually put something like that out there? Street furniture and solar powered lamps and things like that, street lamps, stuff like that. That's what they're thinking about doing. I know now it's been a year or some change, so they've made some progress and discussion. But I'm going there next week, so we'll see what happens. Next item on the docket is from Jalopnik. At $19,000, might this 2011 Porsche Panamera S prove a prudent purchase? I can't stand to look at this thing, man. It's like the 911 is a hearse or something like that.
Mike, that is a sexy beast, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh man, it's like a German thought, man. And 4 wheels. Oh, I'm not a big fan.
Bro, I love the Panamera. Always have, always will.
The Generation 1 or the Generation 2?
Both.
Oh,
both, bro. I love them both.
Bless your heart, Paul, man. Bless your heart.
I know where you're coming from, Mike. I've been socializing to like.
Yeah, I'm with Mike too. I never liked the Panamera. Honestly, I never even liked the. Certain things about the Cayman and the Boxster I like, but as far as even though the people claim that there's so much similarity between them two, and obviously there is, but it's the subtle differences in appearance that just make the 911. It's just the perfect proportions. The 911 is where it's at for me. Like the Panamera, it just doesn't do it for me. Actually, you know what? I'd rather have a Cayenne than the Panamera, to be perfectly honest.
Like any of them, to me, if the engine's not in the back, man, it's not a Porsche. And that's probably why the price is $19,000 on this. It's not a 911, man. It just looks like it. The headlamp casing just looks like a fried egg, from the 996, and it's just bulky. It's just really, really big and really tight inside, though. It's really weird, man.
I think the $19,000 price also can be attributed to the exorbitant upkeep costs of a Porsche Panamera. Once you go past that warranty period, and you have to start paying for that stuff out of your pocket, especially considering that we're talking about first generation Panamera, where they were still ironing out kinks, with the actual engine and whatnot. Your car may be in the shop, more than you're actually driving it.
Yeah, but 2011 was not the first year of the Panamera.
2009, right?
I want to say 8, yeah, 08, 09. Actually,
this is a part of the same generation, though. This is a part of the same generation.
I will say this though. Look, listen, it's a German car, okay?
Really?
Upkeep and maintenance is pricey. I will be the first person to admit that. However,
Mhm.
you get what you pay for. All right. And
Mhm.
you guys know how I feel about German cars versus American cars. You get what you pay for. I can live with the expensive maintenance that gives you everything else that a German car gives you. But again, it's to each their own and what you feel you as a person can mitigate.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't have too much of a problem with this at $19,000. If it was a GTS, then I'd be like, hell yeah, you better get that thing. But at, just the S model, I'm not a big fan of that, man.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the GTS came out in 2011. Again, I could be wrong.
Well, we can check that, we can verify that, but
Yeah.
I think GTSs came out in 2012. But I know the hybrids didn't come out until like the second or third generation or third iteration of it. So, um, let me see. Let's see if I can find any detail right. Oh, this has 115,000 miles. Yeah, so this is somebody's daily driver. Um, yeah, I'm not opposed to the vehicle, but man, that interior, man, that is not it's not the business, man. When you buy a Porsche, you want to feel special. This doesn't make me feel special at all. I don't know what that is, man. Neither does the color.
You know what, though?
But Mike, you're looking at you're looking at the Porsche nameplate, and that automatically elevates your expectations. But really, you should be looking at that vehicle from a price point. Now, maintenance costs notwithstanding, from that particular price point at $19,000, what's in the league of that particular vehicle? You see what I'm saying? So that level of refinement can't be bought, for $19,000 in most of the circumstances.
Yeah, maybe a Buick LaCrosse.
A what?
Buick LaCrosse.
This guy. This guy. Oh, man.
But it doesn't have the third pedal, Paul. So what's the?
Yeah, honestly, that's one thing I don't know, but I'm pretty sure the Panamera never came with a manual transmission. I could be
No,
wrong, but I'm pretty sure it never did.
it looks heavy as crap too. Looks
It
like
is heavy. It is, dude. It is. It's
a German boat.
Listen. It's a four-door car, and all German cars are heavy. Even the coupes, they're all heavy because they have to withstand high-speed crashes on the autobahn. That's why all German cars are heavy.
Mhm. Yeah, this makes me curious. Let's go look at some Panameras, man, real quick. Let's check out some Panameras.
I will say this though. The only German car I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole is BMW. For what you get at every price point, in my opinion, BMWs are overpriced.
Mhm.
Also, BMW has the highest priced auto parts on the market. To find more expensive parts than a BMW, you have to literally talk double R, Veyron,
Hold on, Paul.
Aston Martin.
Hold on, Paul. I gotta challenge you on that one. Let me put this in your ear. The BMW 760. Let's be clear. Is that you can't say that's overpriced
I wouldn't,
for
bro.
what it is?
I wouldn't touch it, and any person who is a BMW aficionado, which I used to be, will tell you out of every car, that's the worst to own long term because BMW puts too many computers and electronics in it, and the 7 Series lives at the dealer for electronic problems, not electrical, electronic problems.
Yeah, but your E30 seems to be quite stable. It doesn't require any maintenance.
Dude, it's an E30. Come on. Plus, that's my track toy. One, that's my track toy. Two, that thing has been heavily modified and rebuilt. And three, it's an E30. There's no any computers on that car outside of the ECU. I put in it.
Yeah, I remember reading when I was looking at the new Supra that Toyota basically had their engineers had to go and basically look at the portion that BMW was manufacturing and basically make sure if the reliability would hold up and they felt comfortable putting it on the car. So,
Oh, you mean the BMW Supra?
yeah, the portions I guess BMW the portion I can't remember what portion they're making of the new Toyota Supra, but the
About
Toyota
90%.
engineers had to. Yeah, the Toyota engineers had to go and basically, like I said, just basically take it down part by part and make sure the reliability they felt comfortable putting the Toyota Super brand name on it.
That's a bit of a backhanded compliment by the Japanese, or at least by the Americans, because it's, as Paul says, it's German engineering. What more could they possibly be expecting?
I mean, the car is literally 90% German.
Yeah, no, I think he's saying that
BMW.
Toyota. I think he's saying that Toyota was looking at the reliability of it, so they didn't want that label on that vehicle if it was going to have a lot of reliability issues.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I was watching a video on YouTube. They were talking about it because they were talking about the factory it was made in.
Oh no, I never said BMWs are unreliable. Specifically, from everything that I've read over the years, the BMW 7 Series is unreliable. The other vehicles, they're rock solid. However, in my opinion, for what you get at each price point, Mercedes gives you more luxury, it's better. Audi gives you more for a slightly lower price. In my opinion, for what you get at each price point of every vehicle, BMWs, in my opinion, are overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
See, I've heard reliability issues with like the 3 Series. I can't speak for the 7, but I know definitely the 3 Series had issues.
The three series, one of their major issues with every 3 Series, BMW in their German wisdom decided to give the car a rear lower subframe, and they are famous for cracking the rear lower subframe, even from the E30. If you buy any 3 Series BMW, you have to check the rear lower subframe. If you buy it used, get it checked. If you buy it brand new, I highly recommend you, if you plan to keep the car long term, buy an aftermarket rear lower subframe reinforcement kit. For some reason, in their infinite wisdom, every other car maker in the world, they don't build a real lower subframe. BMW did, and for some reason, lo and behold, they always crack.
$21,000 for this 2010. Interesting.
Come on, Mike. That is a beautiful machine there, bro.
I bet. It seems like the more I don't know what the Porsche warranty is on Panameras, but it seems like as soon as they hit 90,000, they drop like a stone in price.
Man, doggone well that Porsche at 21,500 is out of warranty.
No, I know it is.
Caveat emptor. Buyer beware.
The only thing that I will say, it is a German car, which means they're over-engineered. They don't break down. However, it's a German car. Because they're German and they're over-engineered, when they do break down, they are a mother to have fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're so over-engineered and over-complicated.
Yeah, I guess it makes a lot of sense though. I can see spending 30 grand on a 4S all-wheel drive Panamera, because you do not want a rear-wheel drive Panamera in the snow. That would suck. Not only is the car heavy, but it would just that thing on a fishtail on you on the highway. So.
Well, I mean, if you're like in Vegas somewhere, then you probably don't care. You probably take that rear wheel drive because you're just gonna be cruising up and down Las Vegas Boulevard anyway, trying to get chose. So
yeah, well, to Paul's question, he says he doesn't recall if there's a manual transmission. According to this, there are 15 manuals in the United States right now.
Oh, really?
That's what it says.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is news. That is news to me. I never knew that the Panamera came with a manual transmission.
Maybe they. Go ahead.
That will make it interesting to actually that will make it fun.
Yeah, because maybe their idea of manual transmission might be paddle shifters or something like that.
That's not a manual.
Let's click and find out though.
Hey, Mike, did you see the video I sent you about the company that does a conversion kit for the R34 Skyline GTR to left-hand drive?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I didn't check the price for the conversion on. I have to be honest, but a left-hand drive Skyline, I don't know. That sounds very.
I guarantee you that conversion is going to be, I would imagine, over $10,000, probably over $12,000.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Unless they're selling like the kit components and they expect you to do it yourself.
No. I'm sorry.
Is that what they're doing, or are they gonna do the conversion for you?
From what I understand, you purchase the car and you ship the car to them, and they perform the conversion for you. So everything is turnkey.
Oh boy, that's gonna cost you a pretty penny. I mean, you know what? Well, I mean, like I've looked into right-hand drive vehicles. Like I was looking at some imports and stuff like that. In actuality, I drove a right-hand drive manual transmission car in England, and I hated it. I mean, I didn't drive it long enough to get acclimated to it, because maybe at some point you get acclimated to it. But man, it was just so weird, shifting with my left hand, because everything else is the same.
You're a lefty though, right, Tris?
Yeah, but the
No. I do certain things with my left hand. I do certain things with my right hand.
Okay.
So I'm kind of weird like that. But like when I'm driving, you said what? What'd you say, Paul?
That's what she said.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
The only difference is the steering wheel controls are reversed. The stalks. I'm sorry. The stalks.
Yeah.
Are you allowed? Do you have to have, if you import a car here to the U.S., do you have to have it converted?
No,
if it's
no, you don't.
Okay.
No,
okay.
You don't. No, it's for choice. It's for people who are not from Australia, England, and Japan, and I think one other country who want to drive a left-hand drive vehicle.
Okay.
There's certain advantages.
Expense.
There's certain advantages to having a vehicle in America that's left-hand drive. Obviously, I mean, when you're talking about right-hand drive, you're especially when you're talking about opposing traffic on a narrow road. You're far away from them. I mean, everything's gonna feel a little bit different.
I guess you're trying to go for your exam at the post office, man. You can drive one of those vehicles. With the fucking mail. I guess that might help you there. These GTSs are looking real sweet, man. But they will come down $10,000 for me.
I have to admit though, I am slightly, if I'm being honest, I'm slightly concerned for the massive price drop.
That's what I'm telling you.
Because the Panamera is not a cheap vehicle.
Well, they said that for all Porsches. I think we covered this last year, but I was at the dealership and they said because it's not a 911, it doesn't hold its value.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, they said the trucks are the same way. The trucks have a massive drop. I think they lose like 37% depreciation. I get 37% depreciation rate in like 48 months, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, Mike, look, a 2015 Panamera GTS for 50,000, bro. You can't tell me. I mean, bro, that is a six-figure vehicle, brand new.
Yeah, it's about 130 grand.
Yeah, easy. I mean, that is a massive price drop. That's a little concerning.
I'm assuming that these Panameras in the Cayennes and whatnot are leased out first off, and then returned, and then they go through a third owner at the end, because maybe the second owner
Gotcha.
who goes out and tries to buy it can't really afford it and gets it repoed, and then it comes back to a third owner.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, in the case of something like this, and like, I mean, with any luxury vehicle, you know, the buyer should just do their due diligence. Like, and when I say due diligence, like, go to some of these forums of like maybe Panamera owners, and then kind of do some research, reconnaissance, and see like, okay, what are some of the most frequently service parts, and what's the main maintenance cycle looking like for them, and
that tells you when you get the report. Because if all the work is done at the dealership, so it'll tell you at the in the report.
No, what I shouldn't say maintenance cycle. I should say repairs, like as far as like, dang, like, around X amount of miles, this is going to go out. Around X amount of miles, this is going to go out. Like, that's what you'll find out from the forum boards.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? That is a huge, huge value, Trish, because again, I used to be a BMW enthusiast, aficionado, but if you go to any BMW owners forum, if you even look on YouTube, pull up the BMW 3 Series, the E30, the E36, the 46, the 92, and the current, whatever they're calling it. The number one problem, again, rear lower subframe. So, you know what? You're right. I could not agree more. Go on to owners forums, and whatever the car is, they will tell you the most common repair issues that you will come across.
Yep. Like what year? Yeah. This year, stay away from this year because it always has this issue. That's what I did when I was looking at my car.
Right.
Well, it's what to expect from this vehicle, right? So with E46s, it was almost a guarantee that you were going to replace that. So how can you go about it? Even the Audi R8, the one I sent you, Paul, with Sam Crack, he got that thing for dirt cheap from the auction, but it cost him what, like $600 to fix it.
Yeah, dude. He ever get that the only thing though, and I know he did his own welding, but bro, I have a massive, massive problem with a cracked chassis. Better man than me. And I am a certified welder.
Mm-hmm. Well, he got it fixed and it still works. And it's just a part of his arsenal now. So
okay, cool.
Was this the guy? I think I saw this. This is the one he bought it at auction, and he had trouble getting the insurance to insure it because of the cracked around the front of the, like it was around the front tire.
Yeah, around the pillar, around the pillar as well. But I think, I'm mad. I'll be honest. I'm jealous of him, man. 30 bands. He paid 30 bands for that thing. That's a steal. He didn't just steal it, man. I mean, he robbed everybody for that thing. So I can't imagine he's going to get rid of that, because it's worth a lot. Even on the resale market, on the used market, it's still worth a lot. So you can't get one of those for less than 65, and it's still going to have that issue that he ran into, and he got it for half that.
Wow.
Got it for 30 grand.
Mike, this car. I've only seen this car in magazines. The 560 SEL AMG. I've never seen one in person.
I've only seen. I'm from Boston, so I see Ray Benzino has had one of these before when he was younger.
Gotcha.
So, I've only seen it once. These guys. These are momos anyway, so they tear their cars up. But
I've seen the 560 SEC AMG, but I've never seen the SEL AMG.
Mm-hmm. That's nuts. It's just it's a timepiece, man.
My man had one, Rakim, the SEC AMG, but I've never seen a 4-door. This is crazy.
It's the right color, Paul. It's the right.
It is, man.
For whatever reason, that color seems to work with the 560s. Even any of those Mercedes from that time. So.
Yes, sir. Crazy. 89. Yeah, that was my last year of high school.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, if you can't find one of those, just get you a 190E with a body kit.
Nah.
This guy. They don't look the same, bro. Cut it out.
Yeah, this is because most of the time I see these in magazines, they got the wall body kit on it, and it still looks good. By and large, it still looks good, but this is something about the stance, the muscular square back and square front
with the AMG monoblock wheels too.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Like, it's almost like how when they used to say BBW, like 20 years ago, BBW was like a lot smaller than what it is now, like more contour. It'd just be like somebody that's got hips, still got a small waist, still look toned. And now BBW these days is like, it's like Jesus Christ, you know what I mean?
BBW is a disgusting land whale like Lizzo. So please let's not even go there.
Where is this guy?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so look at that, but then think about what BBW was. BBW was like Pam Grier.
Oh, Triz, where are you going with this?
Well, I'm just saying, like the cars now, like there's something about the proportions. Like, even though that car, this is a large car, make no mistake.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't. It doesn't seem like, it doesn't look large like these cars today.
No, I see where Trish is going with this. It's the same sort of proportions that the Dodge Charger has, right? It has this really muscular aesthetic on the outside, but on the inside it's really, really tight, like a 3 Series or something like that, or something like a 2 Series, something like that, like a real small sedan. This has the same silhouette though.
You know what? You know a car I want to think. Remember the old Jaguar XJs?
Okay.
So remember how? Okay, that's a full size car, but like when you saw that car in person, it seemed like it was low to the ground. Like, it just seemed like a much smaller car than the large cars of today.
Yeah.
Well, that's because back then cars didn't have the current safety standards that we have now. So those cars literally were low to the ground, and they had a lower belt line.
Oh man, look at this thing, man.
Wow, that is a disgrace.
Yeah.
That is blasphemy. That is sheer and utter blasphemy. What is he doing?
I guess you would need something for music, right? Because there's no way to get the Bluetooth in, but I can't really knock him because I don't know anything that's modernized that would actually work in that capacity.
At least he could have gone with an Alpine head unit at least. Come on.
You know what he should have did, Paul?
He
should have went with the unit that had the completely black screen, like that satin nickel finish. You know, like the radios that it just looked like a black screen, has the button, but everything is black.
Yeah.
You know what? To each his own. I don't like it. To each his own.
Yeah, I would take it.
I'm talking about the one that like I'm talking about the whole screen is black. There's like no silver knobs. Nothing is silver on it. Like the whole front is black.
Dude.
But to me, if you're gonna, I would much rather just keep the original factory stereo in there. For throwback.
Oh yeah, you know what? Because you can get like a stereo put into the glove box where it's out of sight.
You can. I'll listen. I'm showing my age because again, this car was like my last year in high school. I would have gotten either a Blaupunkt or an Alpine head unit with a gooseneck EQ and kept it moving.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, but
I'm older now, so
yeah. Yeah, that stance is correct, man. They nailed it, man. I didn't know that AMG even made one of these. I always thought the 560 SELs were just that 560 SELs. Why would AMG even Because if AMG was going to do it, they would have added something else to it, right? Another designation to it.
No, they did, because you got to remember, back in those days, AMGs were only kit conversions. All right.
Okay.
AMG's first complete AMG factory car was the 2008 C63 AMG. Up until then, every AMG was a kit conversion. AMG did it, but it was a Mercedes Benz. They shipped it to the AMG factory, and AMG just put a kit on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Look at the buzzer seats, man.
But you know what though? To Mike's point, Rentec would totally change the name, like to change the designation, like whenever they would modify the vehicles, and Rentec wasn't in-house at all either.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of thrown off by that.
AMG didn't start doing that until I want to say 1990 forward, when
C43.
Mercedes came out with the big body Benz, that big yacht style. Then we started seeing the C63 and the E55 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who made the 7.3? Was that AMG?
That was AMG.
See, that's what you want.
Yeah, but that was all right. There's some history behind that, but I hear what you're saying, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. They wanted 154 bands for that, so I'll tell you, those cars are going to go up in price, man, over time, because all right, this is from thedrive.com. Did you know Nissan also almost made a mid-engine Acura NSX fighter? The Nissan mid-4 concept is like the R32 GTR and 300 ZX twin turbo had a mid-engine baby.
The front end looks like an NSX, just the front end.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's kind of, I mean, maybe in that particular time period, it might have flown, but like it definitely wouldn't have had the longevity of the NSX as far as aesthetics. The NSX still looks good today. That looks dated.
Ageless design. Yeah, Honda nailed it from right from the get-go. This thing right here looks like somebody gave him a few pastels or something like that. So
This thing is a bastard is a bastardized concept, because like Trish said, I agree 1,000%. The entire front clip, they stole the Acura NSX. Out and out stole it. The wheels are Nissan period specific for that time. That lower side scoop, also stolen from the NSX. The rest of from the A panel back, the mirrors are copying the NSX, but they're trying to do something, some kind of aero something. The B pillar, NSX again. The C pillar, they're kind of trying to do their own thing. And the rear quarter is about the only piece on that besides the wheels that look actually Nissan.
Yeah. That's something, man. Blow this up real quick.
So see, this even looks a bit different. This kind of looks like this kind of has a bit of a flavor of the Ferrari 308 there.
You know what this looks like? This looks like the first generation Lotus Esprit.
Yeah.
That's what this looked like. Oh, they definitely, Nissan was, they was basically making a concept by looking at other cars that were out at the time and saying, let's do our version of it.
Mhm. Yeah, but this is from 1985, so this predates the
Nope.
NSX.
Well, no, it didn't predate the Lotus. The Lotus
And
No,
it didn't
no,
predate the NSX either, because the NSX was actually went into R&D in 82, 83. I know it didn't come out until 1990, but they
Okay.
already had rolling. They already had full rolling concepts by 84, if memory serves correct.
Okay.
Ayrton Senna was the test driver.
Okay.
So it's possible that they a little bit of corporate espionage was going down.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. I mean, the wheels are definitely from a Nissan Maxima. Where's Ty City when we need him, man? Oh, look at this back though. Oh, awful. Looks
Dude,
like
that
they
is horrible.
yeah, it looks like they stole that from the Ferrari, what, 308?
Yep.
Yeah, they definitely stole that back in.
Dude, look, man, that is a cheap copy of a Ferrari 308.
Mm-hmm.
A bad copy too.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? In the 80s, that would have worked.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a collector's item. Well, I mean, there still would have been a market for collectors because by then the numbers would have dwindled on the market. But it definitely would have paled in comparison, even to this day, to the NSX. But for that time period, it would have worked. They would have sold it if they priced it right. They would have sold it.
I don't know, bro. This concept is 10 kinds of horrible.
Yeah, it looks like they got caught in the got caught with with a bipolar development team. So
Did you see?
Bro,
Do you know what was out at that time? It was all kind of garbage on the market at the I mean, the 80s.
yeah, the Arrow out there and the MR2 and things like that. Yeah, the Alante.
Actually, this was before the Alante. This was like the Cimarron era. Hey, Paul, when did the Cimarron come out?
84.
There you go. So if they could sell the Cimarron, the worst vehicle of all time.
It's not the worst vehicle of all time, bro.
Okay,
The
I'm
Pontiac
exaggerating.
Aztec. Come on, bro.
I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating.
Pontiac
Yes,
Aztec has to be the worst vehicle ever. Ever. You know what? It's not bad enough that somebody designed that monstrosity, but some moron above him actually greenlit.
No, hold on, Paul.
No, they both got fired, Paul. They both got fired.
They had to.
Yeah, when released, they got fired.
Yes, sir.
You're over in Europe. Stop acting like you haven't seen a Twingo or two. The Renault Twingo.
You mean the Twizy?
That vehicle is the ugliest vehicle ever. I mean, I remember the first time I seen that car. I was like, what the hell is that?
Is it the Twingo or the Twizy?
Oh my God.
I've never seen one in person, bro.
Mike, can you pull up a Renault Twingo just real quick? Can you just pull up?
I've never seen one in person.
Paul, stop lying.
I haven't, bro. I've never seen one in person.
Paul, I must have seen 1,000 of them in Germany. And you talking about you ain't never seen one?
I've never seen one in person. I have not.
Are you saying a Twizy or a Twingo? Because it's two different.
Twingo. Twingo. I think that's what it is. Twingo. That's how you spell it.
Is this it right here?
Oh no, not that one. Maybe what, Paul? What's the one that looked like two vehicles stacked on top of each other?
Oh, you're talking about the Fiat Multiplata?
Oh, that one. I don't know why. I was thinking Twingo.
Yeah, I've never seen this before.
Okay, I've seen that one before in Germany too. Not as frequently, but I've seen that multi. What's it? Whatever that thing is.
The Multiplata. I think that's what
yes, that's the ugliest vehicle. Now that vehicle, I've seen 1,000 of those in Germany.
Multiply.
And I know you've seen it, Paul. So don't, Paul.
What Tris is referring to right here.
Paul.
I have seen this before.
Yes, I know you have.
As bad as this is, but as bad as this is bad, let there be no mistakes. This is a horrible monstrosity. But this is still not as bad as that Pontiac Aztek.
What? There goes your fix right here, Trish, right here. This just fixes everything.
Well, what they did was they blacked out the upper headlights to make it look like it's a regular vehicle almost. That's what they did.
This is a Tie City Stanced Out edition.
The Tie City series, huh?
The Tie City Stanced Out edition.
Look, there he is right there, cleaning the wheels.
Yep. There you go.
Yep.
With his t-shirt. Oh man, where's Tie City at, man? Yeah, you have to have a vivid imagination to even bother putting any. I mean, this guy put a bra on it, right? Back in the U.S., man, guys in the '80s used to put bras on their cars to avoid paint chips and flies and things like that. On a sports bra is what they call it.
Wait, so does that stay on the car the whole time?
Yeah, it fits under the hood, and then you close it down.
Oh, okay, so you can take it off.
Yeah, it's
pretty easily.
Yeah, I think it was like pleather. You know, it's kind of like
the
same guys who wore members only jackets wore those, put those on their vehicles too. So.
Members only. the last member, Mike.
Paul, you ain't shit.
Paul Bryant. I know you had a members only jacket. Don't lie.
No, sir.
No, Paul, come on, sir. Man.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
But you know, but Paul had one of them leather jackets that had the little thing that you tie around your waist, that little band that like almost like a bathrobe type little tie.
You mean a Mac jacket? A Mac?
Yeah. Paul Bryant had one of them.
I have those now for work, man. Those are styles,
bro. I'm from New York. That would never go down. All right, don't get it twisted. No way.
No, matter of fact, I think Wesley Snipes had on one in New Jack City at some part of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a period for the time, but I mean, I don't think Paul Bryant was a Carhartt and champion hood type of guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the pointy hoodie.
The cone head. We call it the cone head. the champion hoodies.
Yeah, with the great.
They still make the hoodies with the cone head on them.
Yeah, that's popular, man. The hood.
Do they? I have no idea.
Yeah, go see Mr. Chan in the Chinese district. So he got him for you, 2 for 1.
The Coliseum Mall up on Jamaica Avenue.
What's this? Why can't I click on it?
So what kind of power plant were they proposing for that vehicle, Mike?
It says right there the V630 DE twin turbo.
DE Raptor.
So that's the engine from the 300ZX.
Correct.
Why didn't they put the R32 engine in there? I mean, R34.
That was the RB26D DE twin turbo. No, in fact, if it's 87, that would have been the RB26 DE single turbo.
So that was before the R32.
Mm-hmm.
No, this was the same year. It's 87, but the RB26 was only ever in the Skyline. Because the Sylvia got the SR20 and the Maxima and the ZX got the VG30. Only the 300ZX got the twin turbo.
But you know they eventually made the R390 mid-engine. So Nissan did eventually come out with a mid-engine car. It just wasn't this car doesn't look right. It just I don't know. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a Ford Probe, but if a Ford Probe was mid-engine.
You know what though, Triz? You know what? Good eye on that. Yeah. I see that. Yeah. Ford Pro. I see that. Yeah, but yeah, with that crazy rear proportion to it.
Yeah. It was all-wheel drive, so that was actually a sticking point for it. So
Speaking of Nissan, word on the streets is that the new Z. I don't know if they're going to call it a 390. I mean, not 390, but a 350, 370, or 300, whatever. They're supposed to be trying to basically get back more to the Datsun roots. Do like in a modern interpretation of the Datsun.
I think it's a little bit too late for that, though, right?
Yeah, it is too late, but that's what they're trying, I believe. That's what I read somewhere.
They should have just came out with a Datsun or relaunched the Datsun brand and just put, specific throwback products there, and then let it work itself out. I mean, not see what Toyota did with Scion was a little bit different. That the reason why that failed was because it was pretty lackluster for all intents and purposes. Didn't offer anything new and exclusive. So
but Datsun wasn't a brand. That was the actual name of the company. So Nissan would have to change the name of the company again.
No, but
they could make a sub brand like Scion.
Toyota Scion. Yeah, they can do that.
I got you.
Yeah,
but see, I think they want to avoid that because there's exorbitant marketing costs involved with a sub brand, and a lot of times the sub brands, unless they're insanely profitable, they lose money. There is no middle ground for sub brands, so they would have to they will probably test it out with like an actual Datsun line under Nissan, still under the Nissan brand.
Yeah.
And then see if it works, and then at some point maybe branch out, like kind of like what Hyundai did with Genesis. They have the Genesis line within Hyundai, and then after that, the branch out.
I was just saying that it's turning profit for Hyundai though too. So
you said what now?
It's turning profit.
Yeah. That's the thing. It either turns profit. Like it immensely turns profit, or it's a complete flop. There is no middle ground for the sub brands.
Well, GM held on to their brands for a long time.
Who?
GM held on to their brands.
Yeah, and they eventually they had to get rid of them. Geo was the sub brand, and so was Saturn. What happened to those? They went the way of the dodo bird.
And so was Oldsmobile.
Well, Oldsmobile wasn't a sub brand.
So was GMC.
Well, Oldsmobile wasn't really a sub brand.
Yes, it was.
Huh?
Yes, it was.
No. What I mean? What I mean when I say sub brand is kind of like you have an existing line and then you come out with like a cheaper line underneath it, like what Toyota did with Scion. Like Scion was like an entry level line to Toyota. Okay. Geo and Saturn were like entry level lines to the GM products. Those very, very, very tough sell.
What about like Lincoln or Mercury for respect to Ford?
Well, Lincoln is an upmarket brand. So it was
a separate company from Ford at one point too. So
yeah, Lincoln and Mercury were both supposed to be upmarket to Ford. So it's not like they're not slotted beneath Ford. They're supposed to be slotted above Ford. Okay. Like you look at, so it's a little bit different concept. So like when you try to slot something above, like what Genesis did with Hyundai, that tends to work. But like when you try to slot something below, like history has shown that's a very, very tough sell.
But the biggest problem for that Lincoln had, and then Mercury had, which killed it, they're literally all the same vehicle. The differences were literally cosmetic.
Yeah. And
the underlying engineering was crap to begin with. So when you're starting off with poor engineering and the only differentiation is purely cosmetic, people just didn't want to pay the prices.
Well, then you talk about let's talk about Mercury versus Mercury and Ford. Mm-hmm. Mercury would make an upscale version of every Ford model, or so-called upscale. they had the Mercury Mountaineer versus the Ford Explorer. Then they had the Mercury Sable versus the Taurus. Ford had the Contour. Mercury had the what did Mercury had? They had some. I forgot what the Mercury.
Grand Marquis. Grand Marquis.
No, not the Grand Marquis. The Contour was a small one. So Grand Marquis was the.
You're talking about the Mystique.
The Mystique. They had the Mercury Mystique, and then of course they had the Grand Marquis, which was the equivalent of the Crown Vic. Actually, the Grand Marquis was actually the only one that actually did decent. It actually did what it was supposed to do. The other models, they didn't do what they're supposed to do, and that's because, like, when you look at the Ford versions, were generally regarded as being better, even though the Ford version was supposed to be the less luxurious model. People regarded the Ford versions as better.
Yeah. See, that's why I'm surprised you say that normally works. Because for me, like with Hyundai, trying to think in my mind, okay, I'm going to buy a Genesis, but it's a Hyundai. Hyundai's that lower brand. So that's why I'm surprised that strategy usually works.
Well, the thing about the Genesis is that people generally regard the Genesis as superior vehicles to the Hyundais, but people can't justify paying that price because they still associate Genesis with Hyundai.
Yeah, so that's what yeah.
So it'll take a couple generations. Like, I'm talking about generations of humans.
No, like it's the name, bro, and I totally agree with the point that he just made. It's the Hyundai name. So Lexus, they didn't call their cars Toyotas; they called them Lexus. Honda didn't call them Hondas; they called them Acuras, and Nissan didn't call them Nissans; they called them Infiniti. It's the name. The Genesis. I'm convinced that car would sell at that price if it wasn't called Hyundai. Like the Volkswagen Phaeton. If they hadn't called it a Volkswagen, I'm sure that they would have sold that car for 70 grand. But people were like, 70 grand for a Volkswagen? Fuck out of here.
Just like the Volkswagen Phaeton, which was by every assessment of a car expert, was an outstanding vehicle. Right. We're talking about, but it was a Volkswagen.
It was a Volkswagen.
Like, not paying that price for a Volkswagen.
Right. Now I was gonna say the Genesis. I've seen it. I mean, for what you get, it's like wow, this is actually a nice car. But it goes back to it's a Hyundai.
For what you get,
printing money.
For what you get, you can't get anything close to that. We're talking about the Genesis, like we're talking about the which it was the Equus, and they actually transitioned the name to the G90, but previously it was the Hyundai Equus. You're talking about the actual extending footrest seats.
Yep.
In the back.
I was gonna say it feels like a Maybach almost.
Yeah, you can't get that. You can't get that anywhere near that price in any other manufacturer for a new car.
Wasn't it Bangle who came from BMW that designed that?
Really?
I believe so, Mr. AKA Bangle Butt. Yeah, Bangle Butt BMW.
Really?
And the guy who designed the Audi TT is who designed the Veloster.
Really?
Yeah, so they picked up a lot of European designers. That's why they look like that.
Okay.
But you got to remember, Mike, in the late 80s, early 90s, actually all through the 90s, let me just say that, all through the 90s, people associated Hyundai with the Hyundai Excel. And the Hyundai Excel, would you talk about a car that had a loud, rattly engine that you commonly see parked in front of laundromats? That's what you associate the Hyundai with.
A value-based product, right? And Rodney King.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what
we all just get along, Mike. Come on.
Yeah. Well, people associated that with Rodney King. They said they clocked him doing 100 miles an hour in a Hyundai. It's like, it's impossible. The Hyundai doesn't do 100 miles an hour. We knew that was a lie.
Exactly, which is exactly the point that we're all making. It's the Hyundai name. Had they not called it a Hyundai or Hyundai, I'm pretty sure I'm positive that car would have sold even better. Mm-hmm. It's the name. It's the Hyundai name.
Well, you can't really shake it, right?
They could if they have called it something else. I mean, they can't. They could now, but then they would have to redesign it or something.
Well, for what it is right now, the Genesis is turning Genesis and Kia is actually turning profit.
Okay.
It's turning profit, so that's why they're able to maintain it. It's not. I think the only difference is the labor cost of putting on the different labels and whatnot onto the vehicle, the different parts. But outside of that, the parts are all the same.
Yep.
When Genesis starts selling SUVs, which they already have I think it's the GV80 that's slated for arrival. I really think they should have started off with the smaller SUV. But hey, once this SUV once their SUV lineup hits the market, they're gonna really start turning profit. That's the money makers out here in the United States.
Yeah, SUVs print money. That's Jaguar found that out when they started developing the F-Pace. So they sold more F-Paces than they sold any other vehicle they had in their lineup combined. So they see the writing on the wall for that. I think Lotus is probably seeing the writing on that as well, which is probably why they're coming out with their SUV in 2022. So
Didn't Double R make a SUV as well?
Oh, Rolls Royce, yeah. I think it's built off of the X7. I think that's what it's called, like the X7 chassis.
Right.
I'm assuming Tesla will jump in there at some point then too.
Well, yeah, the gull wing doors or the Falcon doors. I mean,
like a true SUV though. Like I kind of consider that like almost like a crossover type.
Yeah, but Americans don't really buy SUVs anymore. They buy crossovers. That's like the all. It looks like it's sport utility, but it's really not. It goes over like the speed bumps in mall parking lots, and that people call that off roading. So,
okay, so you're not thinking true SUV like Expedition, something like that.
No, they don't. They don't need that. They don't need that because Americans are not buying that. They're just buying CUVs now. That's why you have the.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. The Expedition is not Expedition, yes, but as far as true SUVs, there's only a couple left. The Toyota 4Runner.
Yeah.
That's it. Like the Pathfinder is not a true SUV anymore, so it's a crossover.
Yeah.
You're talking about like a body on frame SUV or even a ladder frame. Like you don't see those anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Still got the Explorer.
They don't ride smooth and they get terrible fuel economy. Like my 4Runner. I mean, it literally drinks gas. Horrible.
What do you put in there? 87 and 93?
87.
Okay.
But that's their best selling SUV, isn't it?
No.
Who's the best selling SUV? The RAV4.
The RAV4.
Oh, really? Okay.
The RAV4 and the Highlander are the best sellers.
Yeah, the actual 4Runner, it just basically prints money because the actual the platform is so old. They don't have to spend any money on research and development. It's just like a vehicle that basically just sells itself. No marketing is really needed, and no R&D.
Mm-hmm.
Old platform. Only thing they've done like lately is they've actually updated the infotainment. That's it.
Hey, Mike, did you see? Excuse me, Mike, did you see an article? Ferrari is planning to bring an SUV to the market.
Yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago. You were on here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Ferrari sees the writing on the wall. I mean, 10 years ago, they were like, "Oh, we will never bring on an SUV. That's blasphemous."
Dude, Enzo is turning in his grave.
He's probably turning it because he stood. I mean, Ferrari can't survive at the pace that they're going. These smaller brands are really eating at their heels. I mean, I know that there was an article 2018 that was talking about McLaren is eating Ferrari's lunch. So they're selling way more vehicles than Ferrari is. And
it's funny you say that, Mike. Have you been looking at the articles I've been sending you? Because, dude, verdict is in. McLaren build quality is poor and their customer service is even worse.
Yeah.
It's like they're just gluing their cars together. So
Well,
I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't know if I would touch a McLaren.
well, the thing is, I think because of the amount of engineers, I was reading the article, one of the articles. I'm not sure if you sent it. Actually, you sent the video from JM in the UK, and I think they were talking about people who work for McLaren, overworked because it's just not enough engineers to go around, and so it sounds to me like they're cutting corners in order to keep production up.
Yeah, and the build quality is poor. I mean, it's bad, man. Like wide panel, inconsistent panel gaps from car to car. The build quality, the quality of the materials used, it's like they're almost kit cars. Like it's really, really bad.
They have the same problem that Lotus has, and keep in mind, 7 of the 9 engineers who designed um, the MP412C, or the 12C as they call it, came
Right.
from Lotus. So
Interesting.
they don't have a whole lot of wiggle room to play with. I think now they do, which is why they came out with the 720, and then they came out with the Senna and the 600 LT. I would love to get my hand on one of those.
But
No, which one is that speed tail? Oh my gosh.
But bro, it makes me wonder, man. Ever since Ron Dennis was forced out, McLaren has been nosediving, both in their passenger cars and the Formula One race team. Both sides of the company have nosedived since they forced out Ron Dennis.
Mhm. Well, I still think that their cars are still considerably um, priced according, for the features that you're getting. Like you're not going to get anything like that for below 200 grand with the 570S. There's nothing on the market like that.
Yeah, but if the build quality is the same as a freaking a flipping early '80s kit car, is that really money well spent?
Well, Paul. You can argue about the old Lambos and old Ferraris too from the 80s and 90s. Those things were oil. They leaked a lot of oil and shit, man. They were pretty bad. If you really look at them, they were pretty bad. Even to this day, they still have a lot of electrical issues with those 90s Lambos and Ferraris. So
Fair enough. You're right. Accurate.
yeah, I mean,
Very accurate.
Don't even get me started on a Vector, which is probably closer to what McLaren at the time, right? Because you're talking about a car that didn't really have the brand presence. McLaren now is having the bigger brand presence now, but like around the time the MP the MP 12 or MP4 12C or whatever it's called, like the one that preceded the 570.
The MP412C, the
There you
first
go.
road going McLaren.
So think about that time frame, right?
mhm.
So we talk about a much smaller brand presence. I would more kind of look towards like maybe like a Vector, which that car obviously had a lot of problems with that one too. But I mean, it was an exotic car. Everybody had that picture on their wall. Everybody
It
wanted
was
that car.
exotic. It was exotic looking, but it didn't drive exotic, right?
Exactly.
So it's a big difference between the McLaren. McLaren actually drives really. It's really a street legal race car. If you ever driven one, it's really tight fit. It's narrow, and everything the way it handles is literally like a street legal race car. So it's not meant to be a daily driver, although they say it's supposed to be a daily driver. I don't know anybody who can drive that thing every day. If you got dentures or anything like that, man, get some fixing it, some poly it or something like that. But they're gonna fall out of your mouth going over some of those New York City potholes. But let's go to this this one from Motor One. 2022 Mazda RX-7 render looks to be too good to be true. It looks like a a BRZ or something like that, right?
Well, I mean that angle. You know what it reminds me of, Paul Bryant? You can jump in on this. If I squint my eyes, right, and I turn down the illumination on my phone, so I make the phone dim and I squint my eyes a little bit, and probably if I could take out my contact lenses, I kind of see Maserati Gran Turismo-ish lines a little bit, like they're trying to get that kind of silhouette going a little bit.
I would have to agree. And also, you have to remember, in this day and age, there are very few cars that are unique. Everybody copies off of everybody else, even the Germans. Everybody does it. Everyone does it. So yeah, I see it too. Especially that C pillar and the little the upturn between the what
Yes, that's
would
Maserati right there.
would be the B pillar going into the C pillar. Yeah,
Well,
straight Maserati 8C.
yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I know that Fiat has tapped Mazda before for some sports car work recently.
Any word as to the engine on this? Because
Well,
the
hold on.
rotary.
Let's slow it down, Paul.
Okay.
We got to talk about this front fascia. I mean, you jump the gun. You got to slow it down. Let's slow it down. What the hell are they doing?
It looks like the car had some NyQuil or some shit like that.
I mean, like,
Mike,
are you
I was
kidding me?
thinking the same thing.
Like, no, because Paul, I know you saw the renderings, like the concept drawings of like the old or like that. What was that? What was that concept like the dang it, the one that was supposed to have the rotary? The one that came out like maybe like 3-4 years ago. It was all silver.
What the Mazda? What do they call that? The Renaissance or something like that? The concept?
Yeah, the concept. Like what happened to that? Like they was on target with that one. Now when they come up with the production version, it's like, are you this is the best you can do?
Dude, what happened with that car is several things. But first and foremost, the enthusiasts want it to be a rotary engine. You can't do anything with the technology of internal combustion motor. There's nothing you can do. The technology has literally gone as far as it can go. Little miniature efficiencies here and there, but the technology, and with a rotary motor, it inherently by design, the rotary engine burns oil on purpose. It's by the design. You can't do anything with it. So my question here is, what's going to be the motor in this thing?
You know what it was? Hey, Mike, when you get a chance, pull up a side-by-side of that and the Mazda RX-9 concept. It was the RX-9 concept. When did that come out? That came out in what? Damn it, I don't know what year that came out in.
Yeah, this is coming out for 2022, man. It's already.
No, I'm sorry, Mazda Vision. Mazda RX Vision. That's what it was called. Mazda RX Vision. Mm-hmm. If you can pull that one up and then look at it side by side, because my question is, what the hell happened?
Mike, go back one picture, please. Triz, what is with this droopy, sad face of a rear end? Look at
they got that. They got that. I'm trying to figure out what car. You know what that is? That's the old RX-7 back. They just modified it, like the actual light, how that light bar goes across. Remember the old RX-7?
Yeah, bro.
They tried to pull that, but it's like they dropped the ball on this. They dropped the ball.
That looks like a sad, droopy face.
They dropped the ball big time. Mike, can you pull up the RX Vision and then like kind of so we can go back and forth between, so we can kind of look at those cars kind of, because the RX Vision was on point and they how did they drop the ball like this? I'm very disappointed in Mazda. And I used to have a Mazda. That's what makes me disappointed.
Who owns Mazda since Ford sold it?
I think they got their shares back.
Yep, Mazda is on their own right now, and that's the reason why they have no business trying to make a rotary engine car.
I believe.
Click on that. Click on that third picture in the top. The third picture in the top. Click on that one. See, now how'd you go from this to what we were just looking at?
Is it just me, or does this look a lot like an Aston Martin? Which to me, they all look alike to me.
I would say that it looks a lot more like the AMG GT that's out right now.
I don't see that, but okay.
Well, you know what I think, Mike? I think you're thinking about the long hood line because the actual proportions of the vehicle.
No,
because
that looked like the Aston Martin 4-door that they could give away.
The Rapide?
Correct.
Well, when I say AMG GT, if you look at AMG GT at its base level, yeah, it's pretty much long nose, maybe front mid engine. I think that's what they were going for. So,
but Mike, think about it. Would that be a bad thing for Mazda to just carbon copy it? Wouldn't be that bad of an idea. It might work.
Well, I mean, Mercedes put a lot of money into this. This is meant to kill the 911. From all the reports I've read, it said it destroys the 911 on track. So, base model, not the GT3, but the base model. But they even said the GT3 against the GTR Pro in the Black Series. It's
You know what's funny though, Mike, is that AMG, since when Hans Werner Alfred sold his remaining shares, AMG operates as a separate company.
Yep.
They have their own payroll, their own HR, they have their own R&D, so they operate as a completely separate company. And Mercedes just gives them all the cash that they want, and they make some amazing vehicles.
Uh-huh.
Even though now it's like 95% owned by Mercedes.
Mm-hmm. No, but that was the point that I was making. The long nose effect of the RX is nothing more than a carbon copy of what AMG has already done. And so they wouldn't be all that far off if they were trying to come up with another RX just like this. I mean, if it works for AMG, I don't see why it wouldn't work for Mazda.
Which is exactly why Mazda should have stuck with the first that vision concept.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the money. Now, obviously, it would have to be modified for production feasibility, but the basic, overall interpretation derived from that vehicle should have been retained for the production model. Period. They dropped the ball because what is that? Was it RX-9 concept that you were showing me previously?
RX-7.
What was that called?
RX-7.
Yeah. They dropped the ball on that.
Well,
and they can't afford mistakes. They're too small of a company.
Yeah, well, they only have so much money to play with. I mean, they would have to partner with somebody big, maybe somebody like Renault or somebody like that. But we know that Renault is now what? FCA, right? Fiat Chrysler.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and Renault is kind of having its own problems with that whole Carlos situation and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, this is on my list of used vehicles to go after. So they haven't come down enough in price though for me.
Will they?
yeah, they should. They should with this new Black Series. That should.
I don't know, Mike. I don't know.
Yeah, Mike, that AMG. We're looking at what could be. Only time will tell. But we're looking at what could be somewhat of a timeless design that will still look good many, many years from now.
And AMGs are not known for in fact, AMGs are known for keeping a high resale value, even more so than regular Benzes.
Yeah, there's only so many that they make of AMG, right?
Correct.
And this is the AMG of AMG. This is like their creme de la creme.
The Halo car, yeah, it is. But the I was speaking about the base model GTs. So like this one right here.
Mike, you said like I'm gonna tell you what you're doing right now.
Okay.
You're trying to rationalize in your mind how the price on this vehicle can come down so you can scoop one up. It's not gonna happen.
Well, we'll see.
2 more years. 2 more years.
Yeah, we'll see. I see a lot of them being brought back in because I guess people are going for the R model now. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe people leasing too.
Hey, Mike, what's the resale on a AMG SLS?
Oh my God! Yeah, you know that thing's like a $250,000. I'm not even gonna bother looking at it. That's just like a lap, you know.
Well, I mean that SLS.
I've always wanted to get my hands on the SLS, bro. That car,
hard top. Make sure it's the hard top.
Of course, bro. The freaking gold wing doors.
Yeah.
Yes.
The gold wing doors. Gotta get the SLS hard top.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. Why am I torturing myself?
You're torturing everybody.
Because you know the car is a monster, bro.
Yeah, it's been on my top list. I looked at the 911. I'm not really all that impressed for the price. What is it? AMG GT. Oh, here it is. Oh, that's not the right one. What is this? Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm going by the mileage, and I'm assuming that these are all leases. So, it doesn't surprise me at all. But 62K is what I'm talking about. See, this is what I was saying right here.
Yeah, but Mike, for what you get for that price point, come on, man, bro.
How many miles on that bad boy?
You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You said 49,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But see, look, here's the thing, Mike. How much was that car brand new?
About 110.
That's a lot of miles for a 2016.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, Paul, you got to ask yourself the upkeep on that car. That's you're gonna be spending some money keeping that car up. But I mean, but look, like okay, now I know Paul Bryant, you may think this is sacrilege, but I really, really love the AMG GT, and what it reminds me of, it reminds me of the refined German interpretation of what car? What car am I thinking?
I don't know.
You mean the
thinking?
It reminds me of a refined German interpretation of a Dodge Viper for some reason.
Yeah, long nose, short rear wheelbase.
You know what? I won't fight you on that because I see what you're saying, because the car does have a really long nose, short rear quarter. It's what they call
muscular
front mid engine, very muscular, and the car is refined. It's easy to drive fast. It handles better than the Viper, and the thing on its own, just by itself, has a lot of horsepower. I mean, the car is a beast. Plus, it's a Benz. I mean, it's designed and built by AMG at the AMG factory, but the interior is still all Benz.
Yep.
So you get what you pay for.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the price has come down, so I'm not totally writing this off, and I don't think we should write this off totally, especially for GTS. GTs is what I was initially looking at before, and then I saw GTS is what they were going for. So if I be a little bit patient, I'll be able to snipe one.
Honestly, Mike, I could see you in this AMG GT.
I have to get some special shoes, man, some Pilates or something like that, man. It's really
what?
Get those Funkmaster Flex driving shoes.
No, the Pilato. I forget how you pronounce them.
Pilates.
Yeah,
Pilates, the
yeah,
driving shoes. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because the wheel, not the wheel, the wheel well is actually pretty narrow. Footwell, the footwell is narrow.
Well, Paul Bryant trying to put you in some Funkmaster Flex lugs with the wood grain on the side. Like, damn, Paul, you gonna do Mike like that?
Oh, this guy.
No, this guy, you said it.
Listen, I was just trying to be funny because I thought I heard Mike say he wanted to have the Funkmaster Flex driving shoe. The built-in sirens and explosion sounds to go along with it.
Yeah, drop a bomb, Flex.
Word.
Yeah. But I don't think we should discount these, man, for not being out of reach. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of people saying, yeah, well, the C8's coming out, and well, let the C8 come out. It's already out now as of January. So, I think one of them has already crashed. I think somebody already crashed one of their C8s already. So,
hey, did you see the email I sent you guys through the email saying the very first C8 that came off the factory line was auctioned for $3.5 million.
The very first,
the very first C8.
0001 on the number, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, VIN number 001. It was auctioned for $3.5 million.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, we got. Check this out in the chat room. We got Ebony Knight 85. He says, "I saw the 2016 model in a Benz showroom. They told me the owner traded in because it was too expensive to maintain, and that it was cheaper just to get a new one. So that may be a reason why. Oftentimes, when you see a price, dramatic price decreases in vehicles, like even like the Rolls Royces, like you can get a Rolls Royce. I want to say a Rolls Royce Ghost, for like $110,000. But I mean, you're gonna spend $110,000 just to keep it running. But also, Jibba Jabba 809 says, "Does Aldo make driving shoes?"
You gotta ask for Jesus.
Jesus, that one. Hey, Jesus, where you at?
Chirp, where you at? Yeah, I'm not gonna write this off just yet. I mean, I could be a fool and just go get like a 2004 Gallardo for the same price, and just feel really, select inside of a 2004 Gallardo. But
Mike, listen, why don't you call it a day? Get yourself a 1988 Toyota Cressida, a jawline car for the jawline dude that you
are. Okay, you know what, Mike? Just for argument's sake, pull up some Lamborghinis.
Okay.
And look at the price of, say, see what 100,000 gets you from a Lamborghini. I'm thinking it may get you
the Gallardo. You're not going to get anything more than the Gallardo.
And then and then look at the actual monthly notes on that.
On the Gallardo?
Yeah, like say for a vehicle that's $100,000. Somebody that want to finance it.
Dude, but a Lambo, come on, man. Dude, listen, we've already established Mercedes is the benchmark. Either you're above the benchmark or you're below. Anything above the benchmark is in a totally different reality. Lambo, Aston Martin, Double R. I mean, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on.
Lambo, you got to fly out a mechanic to change the oil. Seriously.
No, you can actually do it yourself on the Gallardo.
Bro, I saw a video. A dude owns a Ferrari. I want to say he owns a 360 Modena. The dude had to lift the car. He had to use special lifts to get the jack under the car. Then he jacked the car up. Then he had to release 2 special panels and like 12 different bolts to drain the oil from 2 different spots just to do an oil change. So it's crazy.
Yeah, man. So the AMG GTR here. This is the second time it's the third time I've actually seen this this month that the price has been significantly cut on the GTR, and I'm assuming because the Black Series is coming. Not the first time I've seen that. So, although this 2020 makes me drool every single time, man.
I don't know. That lime green doesn't do it for me.
It does it for me, man. I don't have any problem with that. I'm not going to kick her out the bed for eating crackers. So, yeah, I wish I would have did something better with the interior, though. I don't think those are the official racing seats, the racing buckets.
Actually, they are, and those have been the AMG racing seats since 2016. So I feel it was kind of time to update the seats now.
Yeah. Because I looked at Raz and Shmi 150. I saw the video they did yesterday on their GTR. So
who's better than Shmi? The dude gets a brand new super car like every 6 weeks now.
Well, that's what happens, Paul, when you invest into real estate. There's some market we should get into.
Well, hey, listen, it is my business. It's what I do, but Shmi is on a whole other level.
Yeah.
But then again, hey, listen, I don't have fancy cars every 6 weeks and making videos. I just travel.
Yeah.
But hey, God bless him. I'm not hating. God bless him.
Yeah, here it is, man.
Now, see, that's a you know what that reminds that's what I would call like a reptilian green, like a salamander green. You know, that's what I like.
It's called Select Green.
Oh, Select. Okay.
So
SYSBM Green.
There you go.
Wait, what is what green?
SYSBM Green.
Wow. Yeah, see, those are beta male coin wheels.
Ebony Knight said cops love bright colors. Yeah, they do.
Oh, that doesn't matter, man. They'll pull you over just because, man. You know, you be sitting in the parking lot, you can see fucking cops sitting right next to you. How's it going? Yeah, you let me know.
I did mean to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we were talking earlier about like Lotus, Ferrari, those brands, you were saying those brands are struggling. What has changed in the market that's causing them to struggle? Because I figure if you've made it in the market that long selling high-end cars, I mean, what has changed that you all of a sudden are now struggling to stay afloat?
Well, okay, you got to look at a lot of the markets that those cars are sold in have become extremely strict as far as engines and things like that and emissions. It's like you're talking about Singapore is a strong market for these supercars, places in Europe. You know, they're really cracking down. So a lot of the car manufacturers' expenses goes to research and development of engines. So now you got to put a lot of research and development into the engines to make them have the same power outputs or actually power outputs that are competitive with the rest of the market and still be actually fuel efficient enough or have a small enough displacement, which requires, you know, complicated turbos, engine management systems, things like that. So, you know, the cost and then course crash standards. which is a lot of them kind of skirt around some of the crash standards because they're lower volume. But I mean, just the cost of developing vehicles in this day and age, is very expensive. And you have so many other brands that are actually encroaching on your territory because you have other companies that are actually owned by larger companies that are able to have more extensive lineups. Like a lot of these car companies they may have like three cars that are considered supercars from one manufacturer. And so, the market for those supercars are kind of small. You're talking about the top 1% in the world. So it's not like you're going to be selling to a more select consumer. And so you're kind of competing for that market share.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I was just curious because, like I said, I can see definitely the regulations as well as, like you said, people coming in the market, people trying to enter in. I was just curious.
And so in order to be profitable, a lot of these brands have to come out with an SUV. And so an SUV obviously is going to be a larger volume. So you're not going to be able to skirt around those crash standards. The SUV is going to probably not be as fuel efficient, so you're going to have to adhere to some of those CAFE regulations that you could have gotten around with a lower volume, sports car. Now that it's an SUV, now you're going to start kind of adhering to some of these CAFE regulations, crash standards. Then you have to, market it a little bit different because it is an SUV.
Might tarnish the brand a little bit too.
Well, you deal with that too. So you have to have a strong enough brand that the actual introduction of an SUV won't affect the sales of your other vehicles.
Yeah.
Ferrari, I think, could pull it off. Because Ferrari,
Lamborghini is a little bit different, right? Because they share a lot of the R&D with Audi and Volkswagen. So it was a no-brainer that they were going to come out with a Lamborghini truck because the Q8 was the modular platform that they have makes it that easy.
Well, and then also Lamborghini had the LMO02 many years ago, aka the Rambo Lambo. So for them, an SUV was not a foreign concept, so they can pull it off no problem. Ferrari,
bro, that is a wide stretch. Come on, bro, that is a wide, bro.
Most people don't remember
ambient time, Triz. It's ambient time. Come on, man.
Yeah, most people don't remember that.
Wide stretch.
Well, I mean, from technically speaking, they did. I mean,
no, bro. No.
They only sold they sold less than 100 or something like that.
Yeah, bro. And bro, that was literally 30 years. Come on, bro. Cut it out.
Well, okay. Okay. Look at this from this. People look at Lamborghini as like a wild, eccentric. They don't look at Ferrari. Is a much more exclusive club than Lamborghini owners.
That's true, but Lambo, as Mike said, being that they're part of the VW group, every Lambo they're sharing R&D with Bugatti and Audi and Volkswagen and Porsche. Everything, everybody shares their R&D now across the entire group, and also SEAT, the little Spanish company that they own. So
and
that's
previously Skoda.
Correct.
I think they sold Skoda, but the Skoda so they had a lot of brands to spread that R&D across.
They spread the R&D, the actual research and the cost. So that's why Bugatti, every single Veyron has sold at a loss. Every single Chiron sells at a loss because the company makes the money back everywhere else. The company, I mean Volkswagen, and the R&D that they pump all this money into the Bugatti R&D. Some of what they learned from that R&D they spread out amongst all the other brands that they own. But supercar sales across the planet, they're down. Everybody is selling less cars, even up at the very top. So that's why you're seeing, to speak to your point, that's why you're seeing a Ferrari SUV now, a double R SUV now. Everybody's coming out because they're not selling the number of cars that they used to sell.
Oh, and Ferrari is in talks of reintroducing a Dino sub brand, or Dino. Is how you say it? Dino? Is it Dino or Dino?
Dino. Now that would be a car, not a brand. That was the actual Dino.
Well, no. They're gonna actually have it as a sub brand and have several vehicles underneath that Dino sub brand. That's the talks. So that's going to include like an SUV. That's probably going to be a V6 base SUV and a V6 base car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Enzo is turning in his grave.
Well, I mean, let me think about this, right? It's either Ferrari makes SUVs, makes the sub brand, or they're going to have to get bought out by a larger brand and lose that independence that they have right now.
You know, it's funny you say that, and you know what? Here is a question to you, Triz, and to Michael. Also, as the industry goes forward with full electrification, how would a company like Ferrari survive, say, 10 years from now, still making internal combustion powered cars?
No, they would have to. They would have to switch to electric, but they do the same thing that Lamborghini did with the supercapacitor.
But Lambo is part of the Volkswagen family, so they have a huge. They're part of a much larger family. Ferrari, granted, they're owned by Fiat, but being owned by Fiat is not like being a part of the Audi, Porsche, Bugatti, Volkswagen.
Fiat and that
family.
only, but once they transfer Fiat to the Chinese, then all that's going to change.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all that stuff is just going to change anyways. It won't even matter. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up, NIO becomes a part of their umbrella. NIO for those of you listening, NIO. And
what I think is going to happen is that you're going to start to see car companies switch to like modular electric chassis type electric platforms where all of the most of the actual components of the car are going to be very low, like in the actual bottom, the undercarriage type of the vehicle. And then you just have maybe a couple of different sizes, and then like manufacturers that are like smaller or don't are not going to invest in like the R&D for the engine and the battery layout and all this. They just basically you just buy the platform and just put your car on top of it. Like you basically you're basically selling your sheet metal and interior accoutrements. The actual car is going to be pretty much the same because it's really once you start talking about electric vehicles, there really doesn't need to be all that much variation in the vehicles because the actual the power delivery is going to get more and more similar. Like as you start the battery technology advance, people start using the same battery technology because they want to make cars that are kind of similar, so that way they can interface with the charging networks that are going to have to inevitably pop up to support electric vehicles. And then as we move towards automation, it's going to be more about aesthetics anyway. Like the whole driving experience, nobody's going to care because they're not going to be driving the vehicle anyway.
Well, if you're buying a Ferrari, you're going to be driving it. That's when.
Well, when automation kicks in, like when people are fully autonomous vehicles, because at some point you're not going to be able to drive your vehicle. Once all vehicles are autonomous, have autonomous capability.
No, that won't happen for a while, Triz. That won't happen for a while.
That's a long way off.
That's a long.
But looking towards the future, it's like at some point it's not going to matter. Like
for Ferrari, that would be different. You're talking 2050, 2055. That's how far in advance that will be.
And
that seems like a long time, Mike. It's not that long.
Yeah, that's 30 years. Yeah, that's kind of a long time, bro. 35 years is a long time.
Yeah, for Ferrari, that's a long time, right? So they still have enough time to squeeze out whatever they can from the 3.9 liter because they can't export their vehicles into certain countries because the climate change agreements and emission standard says that they don't accept vehicles above with engines above 4 liters. That's why you'll notice McLaren, Even Mercedes, with the AMG 4-liter engine, it's not above 4 liters. It's right where it needs to be. And so all of these companies are all following the same standard. Even Honda Acura with the NSX is only 3.5 liters.
Yeah.
So they're playing by the rules for as long as they can. So they're gonna play this out until probably the end of the decade.
Well, Ebony Knight said Aston Martin made an SUV because they couldn't sell cars. That's part of the issue. But even when their actual, their projections matched what their sales were,
mm-hmm.
Aston Martin hemorrhaged money because of R&D costs. The problem with Aston Martin was that they were trying to do all their own in-house engine designs and all that type of stuff and development or R&D on their engines. And it's just extremely expensive proposition. I think at one point they were in talks with AMG for AMG supplying their engines for some of their models.
They already did. That was already done.
Oh, so there you go. So
but they were always borrowing off of Ford. They were always borrowing off of Ford.
But no, but the 5.9 liter V12 was something that Aston Martin made. So yeah, they got that V8, the 420 horsepower V8.
Made it, but that was made with Ford money. Ford funded that R&D.
Yeah.
Even though Aston designed it, it was Ford money that paid for it.
Yep.
So that cannot be overlooked. Ford paid for it.
They paid a pretty good penny for it. But now they're switching from AMG to actually BMW.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next go around. So this AMG relationship that they had was going to be temporary.
But now somewhere along the lines, and maybe it's their partnership with Red Bull, because now we have the what is the Valkyrie? Is it
Valkyrie? Yeah, that's the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and then they have, you talking about the mid-engine version?
No, the Valkyrie is the street car. The Vulcan is the race car. So
yeah, the Vulcan is front engine though, right?
Yeah, but it's a race car. I'm talking specifically the Valkyrie, the street car.
Well, Valkyrie has a track car too, though, right?
It has it might have a street version, but the car was designed to be a road going vehicle. It was not designed as a race car. It was designed to be driven on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So my point there is somewhere, and I'm assuming it's through their partnership with Red Bull, somewhere Aston Martin got the R&D money. Because if you look at the videos that Mr. JWW did, the R&D on that car, the costs have to be astronomical. I mean, the hundreds of millions.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are really pushing some cutting edge technology there.
Yeah, my understanding is they got a lot of funding from either the Chinese and the tycoons in the Middle East. So
gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, but to the point that Ebony Knight is saying is that Aston Martin made an SUV because they couldn't sell cars. It's not so much that they couldn't sell cars, but the market is actually dictating an SUV. You must have an SUV if you're a luxury brand. So it's not just them. It's Bentley, it's Rolls Royce, it's Porsche. BMW saw the writing on the wall years ago with the X5. They had to put something out there. It's just a matter of every luxury brand must have it. And if you look at the numbers for all brands, those SUVs print money. They just make a lot of money for them. I read an article, something like I forget which brand is it. Which brand is it now? I forget the brand now from the article, but they said they sell so many SUVs that they can cancel out all of their sedans now. They don't even need it. They don't even need the sedans anymore.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the Europeans of all people, they used to clown the American companies for their ugly SUVs, their big tanks. But You know what? Money talks, BS walks. Now everybody's making SUVs. Go figure.
You really can't avoid it, because that's that's what the market wants. People feel as though if they're getting more value too, because
emotional purchase. It's an emotional purchase.
Yeah. Now, Vision, real quick. Vision asks, what car was Jadakiss driving and knock yourself out? And was the car and BW rented for the day? Probably the BW and the car were rented, but that car was I think that was an XJ220 Jaguar XJ220. That's
Are you seriously entertaining that question, bro? Seriously?
Well, I mean, it's a pertinent car question. XJ220. You are familiar with the Jaguar XJ220? That's like a highly sought after vehicle.
I think that was Paul Bryant's favorite album too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Paul Bryant's a big Jadakiss fan, so.
Not in this lifetime, my friend.
Oh, really? Let me get to this article real quick. This one is from Road and Track. Everything we think we know about the 2020 Ford Bronco. I'm liking this render. I can't say I have a problem with it.
Yeah.
OJ would be proud, man.
Dude, I want one. I want
does
one.
The coming all white?
OJ White.
The OJ White. That would sell. Yo, Mike, blow that up a little bit.
I want one in OJ White, baby.
OJ White.
Oh yeah. See that you know what's good about this Bronco? See, they're going back to a timeless design.
Yeah.
See, this is styling that will stand the test of time. We have to look at the front face just to verify. But from the rear 3/4 perspective, that's a timeless design. That's gonna last years down, 100 years from now, still look good. I mean, obviously you won't be driving 100 years from now because automation stuff, but
it still got a little retro 90s look about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Consigliere, would you put
what's going on, Minister of Defense? What's going on, baby?
I'm doing fine, sir. Would you put some Mickey T's on that Bronco concept? Because I like it.
That'd be kind of nice. Yeah, Mickey T's, yeah, hell yeah. I throw them in there. Those Mickey T's are a nice ass tie, man. You can that's definitely applicable. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's pretty good. Yeah, you kind of right about that there. Their minister.
Yeah, those the Mickey T's with the side biter tread, man. Listen, that would be a mean look.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I didn't even think about that.
I think this one has Mickey T's on it.
I didn't think about it. I didn't think. Yeah, definitely throw Mickey T's on that for sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Triz. That's gonna look right at any time. But anyway. Yeah.
Now I wonder if they're gonna build. I would imagine they're probably gonna make a high performance version akin to the Ford Raptor, but hopefully they won't stick to the twin turbo V6 because people get a Bronco, they want that V8 rumble, man. They don't want the V6.
Twin turbo V6, and you put a few add-ons on that car's still gonna kick. It's gonna move.
It's gonna kick. I'm not saying it's not gonna be fast. It's gonna kick. I mean, my only complaint about the twin turbo V6 is just the sound. I want that V8 sound when I'm in a Bronco.
Well, an exhaust kit could do that for you as well, depending on what you put on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was still like for me, I know a V6 from a V8 when I hear it. Now, I
would overall agree. I would overall agree with that.
This is coming from a guy who used to drive a Ford SHO.
Well, hold on.
I had the SHO in '93. I did because I had I had the GT, and then I went to SHO. I sure did. I did it. I ain't gonna front. I did it.
But I had a '99 SHO that still had the V8. Now it was a small V8. It was a Yamaha V8, but it had the V8.
Yeah, you had the Yamaha 008 cam. It should kick front wheel drive though. It kicked.
It was front wheel drive, and it was transverse mounted. So I mean, it wasn't anything impressive. I mean, at the time when I had it, I mean, at my age, and I bought it myself. I mean, I was feeling myself at the time,
Yeah, no. You definitely gonna be feeling something like. Yeah, I'm not gonna front. Yeah, man, because I remember when I had
because it was '99. I had it. I think I bought it like in 2000 or 2001. I bought it. It was like maybe like a year or two old when I bought it. I can't remember what year I bought it, but it was like I bought it either 2000 or 2001, somewhere around there.
Well, see, here's the thing about you want that V8 Rumble for the Bronco, but courtesy of President Barack Hussein Obama, emission standards want a higher corporate fuel efficiency rating, which overpowers your want for a V8 Rumble. You got to keep that in mind.
There are ways to get around it. You can put resonators, and there's some things you can play around with. Ford's got some nice aftermarket stuff to make the car sound good. They definitely have that.
Well, really, what makes it sound differently is you have to tinker with the length of the headers and the angling of the headers, like that, the actual bend that comes off of the headers into the exhaust manifold.
Listen, Paul Gentilozzi and these guys, you can go right over to his fucking shop right there in Pennsylvania. Right on in Pennsylvania. Go right there. He'll fucking throw long headers on you. And that shit will sound like it's ready to go to the track. These guys know how to fuck with it. And he's still doing that shit now. So I think he's got a shop. Are you aware of his shop also, Paul?
Who's shop, Nicole?
Paul Gentilozzi.
Name rings a bell.
He's a former SCCA and IMSA a professional race car driver. Ran vets. He outfits vets a lot, but he's got the long tube headers. They're there. He another guy. I think his name Greg Lapalainen. I don't know if you know who he is. Those cats.
Familiar offhand, to be honest.
Back in the day, who would know? Complex would fucking know.
Okay.
Complex would know for sure. But they guys out there that can tune you up, man, aftermarket and get you right. I mean, relatively cheap, $5,000, and under. You sounding right, looking right.
All right, let me just knock this out real quick. This one from electric.co. GM president on its electric future. We can't get away with vaporware. So no more bullshitting is what he's saying. He talks about the pace of EV adoption and when you expect a tipping point. The turning point is now because we have to plan for an electric portfolio to eventually become the standard. This is what Paul Bryan has been saying. I don't think there's an inflection point that says it's 30%, 40%, 50% adoption. And I don't want to put a year on that because the customer will decide based on solving the friction points such as price, range, and infrastructure that prevent people from buying electric vehicles as a primary vehicle and not a secondary vehicle. It's our job to solve all of those, and that's what we're doing. So this is what Paul Bryan has been saying all night. For some time too. Will your next EV be a Cadillac SUV or a pickup? You'll see multiple pickup trucks, but not all pickup trucks are the same. There are all sorts of micro segments within pickup trucks. There are mainline high volume segments. There are mid-size and full-size segments. There are a lot of things we haven't announced yet, but there's a wide bandwidth that we can accomplish with our battery electric platform. We have a very modular set of batteries. We can go low floor, low roof, or we can go high roof, high pack. Interesting way to describe it. How will you prepare your dealers to sell EVs? We have one of the best dealer sales and service networks in the industry. We've done electric cars and plug-in hybrid cars, but they weren't in scale. 2 cars do not make a strategy. So with the next Bolt and what comes after the Bolt, the plan is to change the retail buying experience. I showed a group of some of our best top volume dealers maybe 4 weeks ago, the electric portfolio in General Motors. They couldn't believe the commitment and the excitement around those entries, which is different from what where we've been before. Will your EVs be North America focused? These are global vehicles. The battery strategy and architecture is very global. And so when we design our new battery packs, they are designed to accommodate things like a prismatic cell structure that is highly used in China, or our more mainline pouch system that we have with LG in North America and the United States. That flexibility to do those orientations and configurations of cells enables a footprint that is quite different. The big cost will be the battery electronic system. As we build scale, it becomes less that way. The chemistry is all vertically integrated. That's why you see our footprint in Ohio. We'll do our own electric motors and power control systems. Chemistries come out of our labs in collaboration with global suppliers. So this is very much a global scale. What about the profitability of your EVs? Our next gen EVs will be profitable from day one. That will be driven by scale. There will be no losses. Every car that comes out will be profitable. Will your battery packs keep getting bigger? No. When we started with the Volt and the Bolt, we probably over-designed those battery packs. Over-design coming from GM? They may never die. But along the way, you learn how to control it and how people really use it, which until you do it, you're guessing. So with better efficiency along the way, you're decreasing the cell cost and size and improving the curve of performance and value independent of cell chemistry. We haven't yet put a battery electric truck out there, so we don't know exactly the duty cycle on that, but we do know how people use a Bolt and a Volt and the sizing of those systems and the number of cells. We've had a really good head start. The way that you configure the battery is equally important for cost parity. How do you choose the engineers to work on EVs? I think that we have the best equipped technical resources. They are toward the force. We usually don't brag about the stuff, but General Motors has to not so much talk about it, but actually show people.
No kidding.
That's what we're on the verge of. We can't get anywhere with vaporware. So, for those of you listening, Paul Bryant has been beating the drum on this about the electrification of vehicles going forward, and you need to actually pay attention to all of that, at least from the mainstream high volume market. The gas engine is dead.
I was looking at those articles you were sending out, Paul, on the email stream. Yeah, it's I don't know. My friend and I, one of my friends, he's going actually. He's out in the Philippines right now, and I was talking to him last night because he's had a layover, and I was just telling him, I was telling him, listen, man, because he's got the Corvette Z06. He likes it and all that. And I was like, bro, it's gonna come a time, man, when these cars are gonna be, they're gonna go they're going by way of the dinosaur. That's within your lifetime. It's like you ain't gonna be slamming gears and getting live like that anymore, man. This shit's gonna be a thing of the past. and we're just kind of lamenting this, man. This is it's gonna be tough for a lot of us, man. These electric cars coming through here, it's a big change, and this is happening fast.
Bro, people do not people do not understand where the industry is. Okay,
Yep.
I sent out a series of emails months ago through the email chain. Industry insiders, industry analysts, engineers who work at major companies, and reporters. They were looking at this. Okay, China was leading the way in early 2019. The Germans were late to the party because they were resting on they invented the engine, they invented the car, they built the best cars, but reality is reality. So they quickly jumped on the bandwagon, and then now they're leading the charge for full electrification. The industry as a whole, the Germans, the Chinese, the Japanese, and the Americans are late to the party, but and the Americans, the industry, they've already made the move to full electrification. The public is unaware because the vehicles are not on the market yet. All the R&D, the bulk of the R&D budgets around the globe are for full electrification. In Europe, on the state level, several nations from the state level are pushing the infrastructure for full electrification of all passenger cars and vehicles. So the industry has moved. They're already not moving, they've moved, MOVED. They've already moved to full electrification. That has been the focus since 2018. Others have been late to the party, but that's where it is. So over the next 5 years and 10 years and going forward, you're going to see more and more full electric vehicles. You're going to see hybrids, but you're going to see full electric. The goal is to move away from hybrids into full electrification. You will see more and more infrastructure, more charging stations, more supercharging stations. And the internal combustion, that technology is done. The minuscule changes in efficiencies, they're not worth the investment.
You're talking nothing but facts, and it's been that way for quite a while. I remember some years ago in California when they first brought out the electric cars, and you could charge them. You could charge them at your crib. You could charge those things at your house, and then they ended up crushing those cars up because they really wanted to continue to the gasoline industry was pushing this thing kind of outwards. And I remember myself and BGS a couple of years ago had a debate on his when he was supposed to put me in a chair, but that didn't work out too well for him. But at the end of the day, that didn't work well for him. But the deal was we were arguing that point, and they were looking to bring electric cars out years ago, and this was actually started in California, and there's something. This has been going on now for over 10 years. This has been coming. People know it, and the technology's already there. The biggest piece right now is just really astroturfing the the highways and so forth for electrical vehicles is to come in and plug in, and where you can drive off, and that's what's going on, and that's definitely what's going to happen. And I was telling my man last night, I was like, we got to lament. We will be lamenting this at some point in time because, all these nice vets and all the stuff that's going to be out here kicking, slamming gears and all that kind of stuff. I love, five on the floor and all that. It's over, man. That shit is over. So that's going to be coming to an end, and it's not going to be in 100 years.
No.
That's within our lifetimes.
They're moving fast, very fast. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, okay. Well, a couple things, right? They were spoke there in this article. They were speaking of what I was actually referring to earlier, a kind of commonality in platforms where only thing that's going to be different is just certain interior accoutrements in the sheet metal. So the overall, contours of the vehicle from the outside looking in, and then the actual interior appointments from the inside looking out. But my question is to Paul Bryant, since he's been actually speaking on this for quite some time now, this actual transition to electrification. Might the combustion engine vehicle have hit the wall?
Dude, the combustion engine, the internal combustion engine, if you look at it from a technical and engineering standpoint, the internal combustion engine hit the wall with the creation of fuel injection. And how many
Wait a minute,
decades ago
wait a minute,
was
wait a
that?
minute.
The
We should be
Man,
technology
they,
has
they,
calling
they're
this the
not,
designing engines that
Paul.
can run on steam.
the
But hold
Some
on, hold
vortex
technology,
on.
engine that can run on steam
the
and run relatively great
technology,
deal. The internal combustion engine has been obsolete for years.
decades, bro.
But Paul Bryan has been talking about these combustion engines hitting the wall. So we should call Paul Wall the Paul Wall.
Oh, this guy. This guy.
Triz is too much. Triz is too much. He a trip. In fact, I'm gonna start calling you
Dude.
Super Trip instead of Super Triz.
Dude,
Homie's
walk,
tripping.
walk over to the medicine cabinet, grab an Ambien, and take your nap. We will wake you in 30 minutes.
Oh,
Oh, man.
oh my goodness.
The internal combustion engine, fuel injection, was the last major push for the internal combustion engine. Okay, even the quote unquote ecotech. Again, I have to throw this out. I hate to sound like a broken record. The Germans came up with the idea for the downsizing of the engine with the what do they call it? The direct injection with a turbocharger. That is decades old technology that has now been revisited. Okay? The internal combustion engine hit the wall with fuel injection. Everything since then has been minuscule efficiency upgrades. That technology has gone as
Hey,
far
Mike.
as it will go.
That's what I asked. Hey, Mike, could you find? I don't know if you're in front of your computer. If you could find the guy that created, I think there was a Vortex water engine. This is some years ago. That ran on water and was as efficient as any gasoline engine that we had. It was run on water, and they grabbed the patent. They bought the patent and shut the dude down because they didn't want this shit coming out because they said they didn't want any cars running on water.
We covered that before, but we also covered that the Africans a couple of years ago had came out with a urine combustible engine.
I'm sure, like
a lot of ADOS was pissed off.
Nagon.
Well, I mean,
Nagon.
I remember R. Kelly was a spokesman for that car.
Oh, man, this guy is. I don't know.
Yo, Triz, you tripping? Anyway, go ahead, Paul. Paul, what you say?
Was that water or was it hydrogen? Just asking.
No, it was water. It's actually H2O.
Wow.
H2O, man. H2O. Water. And this guy he created this shit back in the 60s or 70s, some shit. And it was and it was an efficient engine. He made a car around it. Sucker was running. They were like, shut this dude down. Shut him down.
So they did the same thing to him that they did to Tucker in the
yeah. This guy was worse than Tucker because Tucker was showing up a lot of guys on designs and how he could really, come in there and undercut these boys with different type of engines and just fuck these guys up.
Right.
This guy was like, I'm changing the whole damn store on your ass. Gotcha. This is a whole new game. This is a whole new state. Gotcha. And right now, people can literally go into their, hose. You just, you don't need gasoline. You just come in there and just hose up your car, put water, put water in there, and you're off. But it was, the internal combustion engine has been obsolete a long time, man.
Decades, bro. Decades.
It's been obsolete a long time.
People are holding on to something that I understand that they're clutching
it makes
on
money.
to straws.
It makes money. They got industries.
That technology has gone as far as it literally can go. There is nothing to be had from the internal combustion.
Yeah, that's
the last revisionary sort of progressive change was start-stop technology.
What?
Yeah, but again, tiny incremental changes in efficiency. That's not moving the technology forward. That technology has gone as far as it possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me jump to this one real quick from Engadget. Honda E first drive, futuristic and incredibly fun to drive. It'll give you range anxiety outside cities, however. It's a miracle the Honda E is even here, considering how much Honda seem to hate electric cars. And yet, here I am in Valencia, Spain, ready to drive in this affordable, adorable EV, which is slated to go on sale in summer 2020 in Europe and Japan only. Until recently, Honda, along with Toyota, has focused on hybrid and hydrogen cars while ceding the EV market to Tesla and others. However, a maverick gang of Honda engineers convinced management to build the Honda E. They even kept the design pretty close to the urban E concept it's based on, right down to the wild futuristic interior. And it paid off. The compact EV retro cute je ne sais quoi, that's how you pronounce it.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, je ne sais quoi, has grabbed the attention of car buyers and EV fans of all stripes. Now, all that remains is to see if it's fun to be in and drive as it looks. So, I'm not gonna go too deep into this, but it looks like an iPod with 4 wheels.
I like it. I actually like the car. I think it's it looks stylish for what it is. I mean, the exterior again, it kind of reminds me, Paul, like what generation Volkswagen am I talking about? Golf,
Polo.
like maybe like
Polo.
981.
You're talking about the Polo.
No, Golf. Not
The
81
Golf?
Golf.
You mean
The early 80s?
MK1. Talking about the MK1.
Yeah, 81 Golf.
MK1.
Dude,
Yeah.
you look at this and you tell me you like this, but you don't like the Porsche Panamera? Dude, what are you smoking? Crack?
The Porsche Panamera, the problem with the Panamera is the actual proportions. It looked like a stretched 911 kinda ish.
It
Like I
was
just don't like
supposed
the
to
way
look
it's
like
proportioned.
that was the idea. It's supposed to look like a 4-door 911.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Fair enough.
to this to discuss this, the dashboard, it looks just like a big iPod. I mean, it's white and black, just like an old iPod Click.
Yeah, it really.
If you really think about it, it's very basic.
iPod click wheel.
Yeah, 2001-ish, man.
The click
I like
wheel
it, though.
iPod. Wow.
Oh, I missed this. What kind of car is this? I missed this. I'm sorry.
A Honda E. It's an electric car, but it's supposed to be a value-based compact, subcompact, and the engineers convinced management that to actually go to market with this, that they would build it, and they were able to actually execute it all the way down to the.
Hey, matter of fact, it got the actual iPod. Or go back. It got the iPhone battery icon in there too. They just took it straight from the iPhone on the dash.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what would the unit price on something like this be?
Oh, I haven't seen anything. Well, let me finish reading the article. But
Okay.
He said the iPhone.
Yeah, that looks just like anybody that has an iPhone. That looks just like the. No, now see on the iPhone, you have to actually. There's a menu option that you go to that shows the battery gauge like that. So it doesn't come out the box with that battery gauge showing. But you go to your menu options because I like to see how much battery I got at all times. And so I got my menu option where that battery signal shows, that battery icon shows, and it looks exactly like that.
Yeah, I have the iPhone. I have it right now.
Yeah, but can you drive your iPhone, Triz?
Can you drive? Can you drive it though?
Actually, I got a game called Asphalt 9. That's about as close as I get to driving iPhone.
Gran Turismo, baby. Gran Turismo.
No, this is the future. I mean, cameras in the what do you call it? The mirrors, side view mirrors. I mean, look, it had to put a brother right on the screen, right? They had to.
Hey, Mike, I thought that was you for a second,
Mike
man.
with long hair.
Huh?
I said,
Mike, I
that
thought
looked
that
like
was you
Mike
for a
with
second.
long hair.
Nah, man.
I thought they was filming Mike V over there.
Yeah.
I mean, on screen though.
It had to go on screen though. They don't like you
matter
though.
Matter of fact, that's the trailer for the new SYSBM movie.
Oh, man. I mean, this big dashboard, that's just too busy, man. A dashboard is supposed to be simple, straight to the point, so that your eyes are not, it doesn't grab all your attention span from a UX design. That's kind of Apple has mastered this, man, with their products. And I don't think that the auto manufacturers have really figured it out. I think having all these screens and whatnot up there, man, all that does is confuse people.
Yeah.
You need that screen. You need that screen for your Maggle detours. See, that's gonna show you where to avoid.
Maggle
my God.
Oh. Terrible, man.
And your Daggle alerts.
Where's Renaissance Man? Where's Renaissance Man? Jump in.
Mike, I have wondered for years now, why won't one auto manufacturer be bold and take the leap and ask Apple to design the user interface for their screens, for their dashboard, for everything? Let Apple do it.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, but they don't have any experience with cars, though.
Right, but they don't need experience with cars. They're only designing the GUI.
No, what you mean? Not the GUI, but the actual UX. So it's the user experience is what Apple is master at.
Okay, right. So listen, I understand that Johnny Ive quit and he no longer works for Apple. So you should have no problem hiring Johnny Ive as your consultant. Hire maybe Scott Forstall. Well, Scott Forstall, I think, is still at Apple. Hire someone who worked under Scott Forstall, someone who wants to get a boatload of money, and just create a screen and a GUI for the car, because everyone's interface, everyone, even the best ones, they still fall short of what Apple does.
Now let me ask you: are you saying you want to design that for the driver and his driving experience as well?
Well, that's what Paul is saying, that the user experience, the UX, right, what they call it, has to be simplistic. This right here is too much for.
That's kind of
crazy.
That's what I'm saying. It's too busy, like you say.
That's what I'm saying. So
got to be simplistic.
Exactly my point. And since Apple has mastered it, why not let Apple, even if have Apple work with your designers? All right, fine.
Or are you saying that Apple has mastered that?
Yeah,
correct.
They have. Yeah.
Correct. So what I'm saying is let your in-house designers design everything, but let Apple, if nothing else, design the GUI, or maybe even take the next step. At least let them work with your designer to at least place the screens, design how the screen is going to look, plus the GUI. Because this right here is crazy.
So most car companies, Paul, work with QNX, which is BlackBerry bought QNX in 2009, which eventually drove them out of the smartphone business because the time to turn around the QNX operating system for mobile was too long, and the Apple had already arrived with the iPhone, so it was game over. But they still have to bring it.
But that only speaks to my point, Mike. Apple came along and just decimated BlackBerry. So why not let Apple design your screens? If not the whole interior, just your screens, because every car has screens in it. Fine. But let Apple design a screen and let Apple handle the GUI of the screens.
Well, you know what this looks like? You know what this dash looks like? This dash looks like something out of a old Hunt for Red October, where they had all them screens in the war room. What the hell is going on over here, man?
Yeah, the thing is, BlackBerry bought QNX. QNX, it makes most of the infotainment systems for a lot of auto manufacturers, including BMW. And so what I'm saying here is that it wouldn't be that far off that, the QNX operating system, I'll pull it up for some people who are curious to know what why BlackBerry is involved in the car business, is because that's the future for software. and Apple would have to actually create a subsidiary to actually work with auto manufacturers on this, because they don't usually release their technology. They're very, very close-lipped about that.
Yes, you're right, Mike. You know what, Mike? You're absolutely right. And then that would actually open them to, I mean, you can jailbreak Apple devices now, but to put it in cars, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, they wouldn't release something like that. They would
Yeah,
have to create something, a spin-off, or entire different division just for something like that. But
good point. Good point.
let me see what else this thing does. Rather than competing directly with the longer range EVs of its biggest rivals in Europe, including Renault, Nissan, and Tesla, Honda decided to target the E at urban markets while it's competing in the same price segment as the Renault Zoe in 40 kilowatt Leaf. It has a smaller 35.5 kilowatt hour battery. In exchange, the E is higher tech than all of its rivals, especially when it comes to the infotainment options. We just talked about infotainment. It's also much more stylish. Production cars are often a far cry from the avant-garde concepts they are based on. So I was pleased to see that Honda stayed true to its original vision. With a shape inspired by Honda's original Civic, the E isn't quite as radical as the urban concept that inspired it, but Honda has mostly kept the design that everyone fell for. So we know that the battery is only 35.5 kilowatts, and
Yeah, didn't Honda, if memory serves correct, didn't Honda have a 5-door Civic for a while?
yeah,
A hatchback, a 4-door hatch?
yeah, they still have it. It's still in the lineup.
Okay.
Oh, you mean back in the day?
Yeah, back in the late 80s, early 90s, even into the early 2000s. If I
5-door Accord too. So the Accord was like an 86. I think they only came out like that with that for like 1 or 2 years. It was a part of the flip up headlight generation.
Right. Quick segue, totally off topic. There's a car that I always liked, the Honda Prelude 4WS.
Which generation? Because 2 generations came out with that.
I thought it was only the 1 generation.
No, both.
Yeah, you talking about with the rear wheel steering on that car?
Yeah, buddy.
That shit was tight. That, the 959 ultimately, had that, but the Porsche did, but the same. But that Honda did, and they only had. I think Mike's right. They only had 2 generations of them, but I didn't see any more of those cars.
I remember there was
you're
one.
Talking about pricing and range.
Circa 2000, 2001 was the second. Yeah, but yeah, it. I don't think it sold. It sold well.
And I heard the car's handled really well.
Okay, Mike. Okay.
At the tail end of the article, they were talking about the range and price.
I think they were going for close to 30,000 then, weren't they?
I believe so. I
know it was a higher end car for Honda. Higher end.
Yes.
Yeah, this I have the 4WS though. This generation didn't.
I thought it. Okay, I thought it did. All right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that there was.
I remember that car, and that car was. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool car. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, 4-wheel steering, man. Because there was a little bit of a craze at that time. There were several cars on the market that had various degrees of four-wheel steering.
And I remember the Porsche. Didn't the 959 have it, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. 959 had some had a limited amount of steering you could have in the rear. In the rear with that car, which made it like a really unique. It was a unique supercar of the time.
Yes.
I don't know what the problems were with respect to the Honda Prelude, because the Prelude, those cars were pretty reliable. So I don't know if those cars had any problems. I don't know why that car didn't sell. To be quite frankly, I saw it a couple times and it just died out. I don't know why that car did not sell.
If I had to guess, I would say it's the most common problem was Japanese cars. The crap. The what do you call those things? The CV joints.
The CVs, maybe, yeah, that might have been an issue.
Because for whatever reason, the American front wheel drive cars never seem to have problems with their CV joints, but the Japanese cars, for whatever reason, those things eat CV joints for lunch.
Yeah. So that's pretty accurate.
So to Patricia's point here, he talks about the price. Said the article says the Honda E will start at $34,200, while the E Advance will cost $37,500, including the government rebate. So this isn't coming to America. My understanding, based on the article, it's only available in Europe and Japan. So
yeah, I mean, look at that price, man. Because at some point it may be a viable option in the United States, but it will. I would imagine they will probably try to redesign it and market it as a Acura.
Don't count on
to
it.
justify that price point. Because I mean, you're talking about 34,000 base price for a vehicle that only has a range of 90 miles.
Bro, do not count on it. This is the same reason why the Volkswagen Golf R32 never sold well in America. America will never pay $40,000 for a hatchback Volkswagen. That's why it will never sell in America. I guarantee.
Yep.
Hatchback Volkswagen, 40 grand. That is asking a lot for that.
I mean, that's a nice car. Like, I would say like maybe 28.
It's never going to happen. Those cars sell like hotcakes in Europe. A $40,000 hatch is nothing in Europe. It is nothing in Japan. But in America, forget about it. Never gonna.
Oh, you know
That's
they'll
why
do,
they
Paul?
don't sell in America.
You know what they'll do, Paul? They'll just raise it, 4 inches, and then it'll be an SUV here.
they call it
No,
HR.
really, I'm serious. Because that'll save you on R&D. You just raise it a little bit, raise the belt line a little bit, raise the overall ride height. Now you got an SUV,
Well,
or a crossover.
Audi has a car called the A1. That's same size as it. So
I see it. I see it every day.
I mean, I like
And
it. I think it's a nice car for what it is.
A-Class.
Is it an SUV?
no, it's a small car like this. It's a compact.
Tiny little car.
Matter of fact, it looks exactly like that as far as proportions. Like if you were to just like blank slate it and just go based on the actual proportions, the rear overhang, the front overhang, the belt line, it looks exactly like this.
More or less, yeah. More or less.
Now the wheels are a little bit bigger.
Right. As does the Mercedes A-Class. Tiny little car, does not sell in America. But in Europe and in Asia, they sell like hotcakes.
Oh yeah, I've seen an A-Class Mercedes in
They sell them in Canada.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to know. But bro, the American market, the United States will not pay those prices for such a tiny vehicle. They just absolutely won't.
Mm-hmm. Because they're so big, they're so used to these big SUVs, man. That it's hard to price a car like this next to something like a Ford Escape.
But see, you also have to keep in mind, Europe makes small cars because they're small countries with small roads for smaller people. Whereas America is a big country with big wide roads with big fat wide people. So it is what it is.
Well, if you exclude a lot of the urban cities, I know in Boston we still have the cow path. So a car like this would actually fit right down those streets. The other thing, you can't fit a Ford SUV or a GM SUV down those streets. It won't even fit.
Gotcha.
Now, wait.
Because bro, in continental Europe, you rarely see an SUV, and if you don't, it's almost always a Range, and they're rare. But what you do see a lot of hatches, a lot of small cars, and the smaller 4 doors.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting. But yeah, infrastructure is the key here. Many people have guesstimated that it could take 30 to 40 years to get the electric infrastructure up here in the United States in comparison to other places around the world. So, because you have so many gas stations, and then you have so many zoning laws and statutes on the books, and stipulations and whatnot that prevent electric infrastructure from being put in. Big oil companies have such a grip on the government. They lobby to prevent a lot of these things from taking place. So.
Well, you know what? This kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know, maybe about 15, maybe 20 years ago. I remember it was all over the front of Motor Trend magazine. BMW had developed a hydrogen combustion V12 engine, and they had put it in the 7 Series, and it was on I want to say it was, I don't know if it was Motor Trend or Car and Driver, one of them magazines. They had a big write-up about it, and they talked about this was going to be like the new age of vehicles, and all of a sudden it disappeared. Like, didn't hear any more talk about it, period. The next thing I heard about hydrogen cars was when Toyota was coming out with the Mirai. Had never heard anything else about the BMW V12 hydrogen engine.
Well, because they shared the research and development on it.
Bro, automotive technology has not moved at the same pace as every other technology on Earth. If you look at every other technology, how it has advanced over the last 20, 50 to 100 years, look at automotive technology over the last 20, 50, and 100 years. It has moved at a snail's pace compared to every other technology on Earth. That's why people say it has been artificially suppressed.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go to EG, sir. He got his hand up.
Cool question. You guys were talking about those, like the cars that were powered on water and urine, which I guess would be water in and of itself. But did y'all really look into that? Because anybody that knows chemistry knows that in order to get any type of energy from an H2O molecule, it would just be hydrogen, or the splitting of that that compound. And because I remember seeing something, and all the exhaust was just was vapor, but people were saying that it really wasn't true, that you can't get any type of energy from the separation of was it hydrogen from oxygen? Because that's what it will take to power for a vehicle powered by water, or that runs on water.
There was a guy who had, there's a design for it. The guy designed a car. It was rocking, and they shut him down. I'll have to find it. I don't know if Mike can find it, but it's.
I saw it. I saw something like that, but just on the chemistry of it, it'd be hard to.
Break down the chemistry of it. I've taken chemistry. All break the chemistry down for me real quick.
I mean, it's if I can remember, it would be what do they call those? It would be I know it's an exothermic reaction, so it does create heat, but
it requires energy to actually break apart the molecules. So is there a net loss or a net gain? And is the net gain sufficient enough to provide for propulsion to overcome the friction of the internal components? I know what you're talking about.
Like I said, the guy has a whole design on it, and it runs on water. So, it is what it is. It's out there. I think they call it kind of vortex engine. I forget what it was, and they
Say
crushed it.
Say that.
You know what?
Vortex.
It could be moving water molecules across the concentration gradient too. So there are some ways. I mean, I'm surprised one person designed that, because like we're talking about extrapolating energy from.
It was one dude, and they climbed all over about it.
Well,
we have to, if somebody can Google it up and take a look at it very quickly. It's out there, man.
But then somebody would have come up with it.
They came up with it, man. I'm telling you.
But somebody would have come up. Go ahead.
You have a very powerful industry out there trying to suppress a lot of shit, man. That was trying to suppress a lot.
That is such a common experiment though. I mean, in any class you would do that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's been
done.
I mean, it is a common experiment,
and patented.
He might have figured out a way to do it. I'm like what I'm saying is that you would think that it would take a team of people to figure that out, to actually make it work. Now, if he did it by himself, man, he must be some type of pretty like, we talking about the Rain Man of freaking automotive mechanics.
I mean, they're creative people out there that can do that kind of stuff. You don't need all those teams. They're creative guys that can do a lot of shit. Who think critically. So yeah, you don't need all that. I mean, this guy was able to do it. It's out there. We just got to research it. I just know it's out there. We've talked about it before. I forget the name of the engine, but the guy had it. I'm forgetting his name, and and he came out with this engine, and they were like, "Nah, man, nah, bro. Ain't no water, man, steam, gas, steam powered. Nah, bro, we ain't having that. That's knocking a whole lot of succulades out the frame. Forget about it. No, we can't have
that. I would like to say this. I am not familiar with the technology per se, so I will research it. So that
I'm looking it up.
What I will say is this:
is it Stanley Meyer? Stanley Meyer back in 1998. He died in 98.
It may have been. Let's take a
water fuel cell.
There is the possibility, and I'm only throwing this out there just for discussion and debate. There is a possibility that this man invented this technology, but there could have been issues with what Supertruths was trying to allude to. If there's more energy going in than coming out, then it is not viable. Okay.
No. This was a viable. This was a viable working design. It's just that people.
I'm merely asking questions. Okay, I'm not familiar with it, so I don't take any stance either way, because I don't know. This is something that I would like to research myself.
You know what this sounds like? This sounds like a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle that starts out with water.
Water, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So this is possible. It's basically a Toyota Mirai, but instead of using hydrogen as the fuel source, you start off with water. So there's actually a net expenditure to extrapolate the actual hydrogen from that water molecule.
Exactly, the amount of energy that goes in.
But here's the thing. Even a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, that process does occur, but it occurs prior to putting the water into the vehicle. So you actually need to carry more fuel in a form of water, because remember that hydrogen molecule is accompanied by 2 oxygen, so it occupies more space. So that would diminish your range, but even still, it still would be a viable way of transportation if he actually pulled that off. Starting off with water as the fuel source, because
he has like a patent on the whole thing. He's patented the whole thing and all that.
Yeah, here he is right here.
Well, look, read that headline, Mike.
Inventor of water-powered car died screaming, "They poisoned me."
Now that's kind of peculiar.
Yeah, but that's I think that's what Nagone was saying. That they tried to try to dom him. Get your
Yeah. They ran a dom game on his shit, and he was like, no. They came in there, tying him up.
tied his hands out, had him doggy style and all that shit, man. It was crazy.
honestly, Nagone, see, like they wouldn't even have to do all that. See, what they do is they send the woman in there.
well, like I said, they domed him, man. And like I said, he had the engine, and he was tight because at the end of the day, he thought that they were really suppressing a technology that was more efficient and didn't, at the end of the day, this guy was stepping on way too many toes. He was cutting into too many stray suckers' money. That you had sucker-laid dudes making a lot of money off of basically an extinct, fuel.
That's like saying
and
the people,
and they were like, nah, man, we're making too much money on this.
but that's like saying the people that were making money off of the coal-powered engines, did everything in their power to stop gasoline-powered. Like eventually these things will evolve.
They did.
Yeah, I mean, they actually did. I mean, you have to understand. If you look at history and see how things were suppressed at GCU, you'll see that this is just kind of how things go. It's kind of like the business model of business to suppress other things that are coming up, like the electric car. They had the electric cars come out in California. This was like, I think in the 90s or whatever, late 90s, early 2000s. They had these great cars, and then they just said, "Oh, it's no, we can't have this." Issues. They came up with some bullshit, crushed up these cars, destroyed them, and then they came out with these big giant SUVs, man, that had 50-gallon gas tanks and shit. And
look at the internal combustion engine. People, the proponents of the steam engine, they try to do what they could to suppress the internal combustion engine. So it happens. It does.
Yeah, I mean, it just it's a part of the game. It's just part of what they do. So I mean,
well, we could go back in history and look at Black men's contribution to automotive design and see how many of them were getting railroad from a patent perspective. We didn't even know that a Black man came up with the automatic transmission, right? We didn't even know, the braking system and all that stuff designed by a Black man.
Yep.
Sure. The whole real McCoy. Elijah McCoy, who actually helped to develop not only the internal combustion engine but the whole oil, the whole oil pump system inside the vehicle to keep inside the engine to keep the parts lube and so forth. I mean, that's why you call it a real McCoy. It's a brother who had that. I mean, it was a lot of highly butter-laid shit brothers did. And of course, some of this is not talked about in history. So
the Patterson Car Company.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, right.
I remember that guy. That guy.
Yeah, and you also had what's this other brother, man? I'm kind of going outside of automotive, but the brother who came up with the refrigerated trucking. No, the dude who came up with the pacer, not the pacer, the heart pacer.
Dewey.
Yeah.
The heart transplant.
Oh, you mean
not the heart transplant, but the pacemaker?
The pacemaker? Okay.
There was one guy, I think it's Charles Drew. He actually died needing the same procedure that he
blood plasma.
He actually died needing that procedure. That's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, he died. He was outside of White Hospital. They were like, nah, they didn't bring him in. I mean, you just look at the history of this country. You're just a bunch of savages, man. These guys.
Says it right here.
These fucking mayonnaise. They're fucking animals, bro.
You said it right here. Yet many of Myers' supporters believe he was assassinated in a bid to suppress his inventions.
Yeah, there you go. Talk about it, Mike. It's right there. I'm just saying this goes on. This goes on all over the place. I mean,
Nikola Tesla put a bullet in his head.
Yeah.
You got a brother right now in Ghana who's hiding out because he created the keyless keyboard where you can just type in the air and figures come up on screen. And there's a name for it. I'm forgetting the name.
It's called haptic.
Yep. Yeah. And I saw IBM and them. They were trying to grab it. They had some commercials on it, trying to grab it. and he's got the patent on it. He's hiding out, thinking that they're trying to smoke him.
Oh, you know what, Nagon?
Because these some of the newer inventions have come out over there under the guy with Kantanka and all that. So they got some ill shit going on over there that people don't even know about, that they're trying to hide out. That these guys got major computer technology that this guy's got that they're trying to steal from him, and he's hiding. He's afraid. He thinks he's worried that they're trying to grab him and take his ass out because he has these patents.
Can we take a quick look at what this says here, Mike? He estimated only 22 U.S. gallons of water were required to travel from L.A. to New York. Just think about that.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This shit is created
with injectors, introducing a hydrogen-oxygen mixture into the engine cylinders. So he's making some serious claims
right there.
Okay, but see, oxygen, exactly. So
that's a fuel cell. That's exactly
okay.
What
so you would
fuel cell does.
So he would have to split it up and then mix it, because I remember it saying the exhaust was just water vapor, and what you get from hydrogen and oxygen mixing together, that's water. That's what lit a fire.
It's a redux. It's a redux reaction.
Hold on a second. Let Paul read it, man, because ain't none of y'all creating this stuff. This is a guy that's already created.
According to the Wikipedia page, the water was subjected to an electrical resonance that disassociated it into its basic atomic makeup.
That's
the water fuel cell would split the water into hydrogen and oxygen gas, which would then be, and I'm assuming the next words will be, ignited and burned. So all I'm saying is, apparently, the water fuel cell would then split. The water fuel cell would split the water into hydrogen and oxygen gas, which would then be combusted back into water vapor in a conventional internal combustion engine to produce net energy. So apparently, this gentleman created the same technology that other manufacturers have road tested years later. So quite clearly, his technology was intentionally suppressed.
Yeah, they suppressed him, and then he was worried about getting his wig split. Man, they were like, "We'll split your wig if you keep pushing this shit out." He was worried about getting smoked. It's basically, these industries are like a mafia. You get too big for your britches, that they'll take you out, man. So that's what he's worried about.
Look at what it says right here. His water fuel cell was later examined by 3 expert witnesses in court who found there was nothing revolutionary about the cell at all, and it was simply using conventional electrolysis.
Yeah, but you know what? The expert witnesses who were probably introduced by the actual either the opposing legal counsel. So these expert witnesses obviously have been vetted and curated by the opposing counsel.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Yeah. That's
the debunkers and shit. That's what they are. Yeah. Fuck these guys. But like I said, this guy had a problem. He had a technology that was knocking a lot of hyper sucker lades out the frame. Who were looking just to make a lot of money and not have this guy come in here and change your paradigm. That's what this is all about. Don't come in here and change your paradigm. Don't change it.
No. His problem was that something like that, you can't just expect to lone wolf that. You better align yourself with a company that can not only fund you but protect you. Like,
at the end of the day, this bad boy is running on water. Huh? Okay, the gas industry is like, we can't make XYZ, dollars, on water like we can on this gasoline.
Because certain technology, it doesn't matter how big the company is. If it is a technology which will threaten the bottom line of the oil and gas industry, they will take you out.
They'll take you. They'll take you out clean, and not even think about it. So because you get in the way of billions, potentially trillions of dollars, and that was the problem.
Because at the end of the day, listen, I am no chemist, but the only question that I asked was, we all know you can't burn water. You can, however, burn hydrogen, and his process apparently achieved the question that I asked. was he separating the hydrogen from the water and burning that, which he claims in 1996, according to the article, that's exactly what he was doing. So, was it revolutionary technology? I don't know. Was he the first? Clearly, he was the first. And if it was in the mid 90s, that was a good 10 to 15 years before the BMW H7 or H1.
But there was a guy before him who actually had another type of the same deal that he had. There was another guy out there earlier than this guy. But what I'm saying is, you had these guys out here that was saying this combustion engine is some dog shit. It's dog shit. It's over. And you don't need gas. You don't need gasoline. You don't need all this. We can run this thing without any pollution and just and get live out here. And they were like, nah, bro, ain't happening. We can't make money off of that water, fam.
What?
These guys can fill up at the house. Forget about it.
Well, you have Nigerian girls turn 1 liter of piss into 6 hours of electricity.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I'm thinking either it has something to do with the actual electrolytes dissolved in urine or the uric acid in urine. That's the source.
It would be equivalent to almost like you remember they created thousands of years ago a battery that ran off of what they called it the Baghdad battery. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it was run off of broken down fruit juices, which degraded and
yes, I am familiar with that. I have researched
highly acidic, and it would be the same with urine and so forth because urine has ammonia and ammonium is in there. It's acidic and all that. High pH. Anyway, you can do that. That's why I know ancient Egyptians, they had electricity, they had all that kind of stuff. They did because they were able to produce it chemically, and they had lights. You could produce lights and stuff. They had all that. Even though we try to say that they didn't. There's depictions even on the pyramids as far as inside the pyramids that show that they had electric lights and so forth.
We came from Kangs, Egyptian Kangs.
No, it's not so much Kangs. It's just the fact that a lot of the stuff that you have today that we think wasn't created because man has always been pretty pretty smart. We had it in the past. We've degraded and we can see there were periods of extraordinary ignorance and destruction where you lose this stuff.
So you're telling me the pyramids weren't built by aliens that came down and built them then left?
That shit is ridiculous as anything I've ever heard. That's the dumbest shit ever.
Ain't no black man building a pyramid like that. Come on, man.
Well, unfortunately, that's the truth.
Nah.
And what was even more amazing,
I seen stuff where they said they used electricity too.
Which is not even more amazing as the building of the pyramids, but how they laid the ground out in which to build the pyramids on. That was an unbelievable feat in itself as well. But if you really start to go into it, you can see this.
They always say that the Europeans did it, and then they went back to Europe to have
They went back to the Europe. Yeah, they went back to Europe in the dark ages.
Fucking eating each other, man. Get fucking out of here, man.
They took
German engineering.
They took a shower. They cleaned themselves off, took a shower, went down to Africa, went down to Africa, built the pyramids, and then they went back to the dirty ass caves again. Come on.
Yeah. It's just like the black guys ran up over in England, built Stonehenge and built Stonehenge and shit, and went back to Africa and said forget about it. I mean,
well, that very well could have been though.
It's possible. I mean, it's probably more likely than that than what the Europeans are saying. They would have lashed out, man. They would have lashed out the gang. But like I said, and then now you've got guys like Robert Schoch.
Remember,
you've got some white dudes calling this shit out terribly. They're like, oh shit.
They couldn't figure out. They couldn't figure out why the bubonic plague was killing them. Yet they were living the filth that they were living amongst. They didn't that big pulsating welt on their neck. They couldn't figure out why it was killing all of them. It's crazy.
No, they couldn't figure it out. But yeah, they're building the pyramids. Yeah, right. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah. So anyway.
No, but I'm just saying that technology should be easily duplicated or replicated. That's what you know. I mean, if it's a patent, you should be able to look it up. Because I've seen some patents that people have said have been.
Well, they had, but that was suppressed. I mean, you had to understand you're going up against an exceedingly powerful industry, exceedingly powerful, politically, economically, very powerful. So to try to knock them out the box or bring something out that they don't want to have come out, it's very very hard. It was hard to fight these guys, man. They got a lot of money, a lot of power, and let's be very frank about it. At the end of the day, if they want to suppress you and they want to shut you down, they can do it. They got the ability to do that. I mean,
there was a doctor out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that had figured out using, I think it was polyclonal antibodies from a goat, and he was able to figure out how to kill the AIDS virus. And the NIH, they never took this up, and the guy mysteriously died like after he came out, because he had to go to Africa to start doing his experiments. He actually went to Africa to do it. It's on Dateline. Dr. Gary Davis. It's on YouTube.
Dr. Sebi?
No, it wasn't Dr. Sebi. It was Dr. Gary Davis, a doctor out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. But the guy mysteriously died after coming out with this. He was out. They got him up out of there. So you kind of wonder.
Was it Nature Boy?
Nah.
Come on.
This was a real doctor.
Come on.
He was a real doctor.
you talking about Ric Flair? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Come on, reflection.
Nah, it's actually a YouTube. He's actually a YouTube. There's some YouTube videos on the guy, but you just, after a while, you just never heard of it. You hear about it, and then you don't hear anything else again, and you kind of wonder what happened. But I think in America we're kind of our attention span is so short that we see these things, and then it's on to the next one. So people don't follow up and say, hey, what happened to this? What happened to this breakthrough? This breakthrough advancement what happened to it? Nobody ever asked that question because it's just. Go ahead.
But like I was saying, here you are. You got engines that run on water, and that shit was like, nah, fam, not here, not today. That's how they were rolling with that. Nah, fam, not here, not today. Nah, fam, nah. That's how that goes.
Gotta shut down for tonight. So, shalom to